Members, it's time, and we have quorum. I call to order the meeting. Members, can I ask you to confirm the minutes? Paper number CB 11098/13-14. Minutes of special meeting on the 7th of January 2014. The Secretary has not received any proposed amendments. If there are no questions, members, could we confirm the minutes, please? Any questions, please? No? Thank you. Information papers issued since the last meeting. The details are in the agenda. Any comments, please, on the information papers? Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Tong Li-jie wrote to you. You accepted it, have you? Have you not? Response has been given by the administration. Well, Mr. Chairman, on the administration's response, if I could follow up on that. Now, the administration is now conducting a review, and I understand it will be carried out before the middle of the year. And when the findings are out, they will come back to the panel. So can we ask about the time frame, please, just now? Before the middle of the year, that means they have to start in the next month or two. So will they only come back to report in the next session? Can they come back before the end of this session? That is before the summer break. Well, we can ask the person in charge in the Bureau. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to point out that the review is important. They're doing a review, so if we could give them some of our views first, then it's possible that when the new proposal is introduced next year, it would have incorporated the views of this council. Now, if they do the review now and we don't have the opportunity to give them our views, that means next year they will not be able to implement a new proposal which has taken on board LegCo members' views. Here, is about redevelopment as an important subject. So, Mr. Chairman, is it possible to schedule a discussion within this session? Okay, this clerk will take care of that. Nothing else. Next item on the agenda. Items for discussion at the next meeting. The next meeting will be held on the 22nd of April at 2:30 p.m. The administration has proposed 5 items for discussion. 1. Ma Shan development, roads, drainage and sewerage works at Whitehead and Lockwall Sha Phase 2. 2. Pilot study on underground space development in selected strategic urban areas. 3. Liantang, Hengyun Wai boundary control point and associated works, site formation and infrastructure works. 4. Planning and engineering study on Sunny Bay reclamation. And 5. Planning and engineering study on future land use at the ex-Lama quarry area at Sok Koo Wan, Lama Island. Feasibility study, stage 2. Community engagement and draft recommended outline development plan. To allow sufficient time for discussion of all these items, I propose that for the regular meeting, it will be extended by 2 hours to 6:30 p.m. on that day. Next, item 4 on the agenda. Mr. Chairman, yes? Mr. Chairman, please look at us. Don't just look at the Chairman's brief. Item 3, PWP item number 19GB. On the 7th of January, The proposal was discussed, and we did not give support for submission to PWC. Why are they coming back now again on the 22nd of April? And it's said here that we don't agree to them submitting the paper to the PWC. How come they're not coming back again so soon? Well, we'll have to find out for you. I wouldn't know. I'm just reading out from the script. Okay, then please continue with your reading of the script then. Next, item 4 on the agenda. Greening master plans for the new territories. Can we invite the administration into the conference room, please?
我首先我歡迎出席會議。
First of all, I would like to welcome the government representatives attending the meeting. The attendance list is tabled, so I will not introduce them one by one. First of all, can I ask the administration to give a short introduction on the paper? The administration is going to show us a PowerPoint presentation, but please try to be concise. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Well, today we're here to brief you on the greening master plans for the new territories. We actually consulted the panel in 2012 and afterwards in 2011, and then we went back with reviews. We did more work and so on, and now we're ready with funding from LESCO. Then we could start work, so we start a tendering exercise. Greening master plans for the new territories is one of the priority area for the greening master plans for the whole territory. Here we're covering 4 districts. As for the remaining 5 districts in the new territories, we are pressing ahead with our preparation. We should be able to finish the work by the end of the year, and then we'll be able to submit the remaining greening master plans for your endorsement. For the 4 greening master plans here, covered in this paper, my colleagues at the CDD would walk you through it by way of a PowerPoint presentation. Thank you. On the greening master plans and how they formulated. When we formulate the greening master plans for the new territories, we will look at the unique features of each community and come up with a dedicated greening master plan. And of course, there are guidelines to go by in making our plans. In 2011, we completed the greening exercise for the urban areas. The new territories, of course, covers a lot more ground areas. That's why we have first picked 3 priority sites, mostly places where there's a dense population, say in the town centers or where there are tourist destinations, and also along the public transportation routes. We would like to do more greening. Now, after we've identified suitable sites, then we must come up with a greening theme for each community, and then we will propose suitable species for planting. For southeast and northeast and northwest new territories, they cover 4 district councils: Sha Tin, Sai Kung, Tuen Mun, and Yuen Long. We started the study in May 2011. We completed the design work at the beginning of this year. On local consultation, we've consulted district councils and rural committees. We worked together with them. From the experience in drawing up greening master plans for the urban areas, we have district participation groups. district participation groups are composed of district councillors and rural committee members. So they were involved from the start of the process through to implementation, and also during engagement forums. So they would be involved. Now, for these 4 district councils, they all support the greening themes we've proposed. So here we are coming to seek funding. You can see from this map the 2 major areas covered by the greening master plans. In the top portion, you see Yuen Long, including Tin Shui Wai and Tuen Mun. The yellow areas are the town centers and important sites where there are tourist attractions. And the light blue line is the main transportation route. The red dots are where we're going to plant. But then not all the red dots are to signify planting, just the special ones that we've included here. So there are more red dots than this, in other words. And then for Sha Tin and Manshan, and also Sai Kung Town Center and Chengano, they would all be covered. And you can see from the map that we will be planting 3,400 trees, or what we call shrubs. Or shrubs, we're going to plant 1.81 million. There will be more in Sha Tin and Yuen Long, 1,000 trees and 330 shrubs in Sha Tin. Sai Kung and Tuen Mun, 700 trees, 300,000 to 500,000 shrubs. The amount we are applying for is $51.1 million in money of the day prices. That covers the site cost, workers' fees, and so on, and then consultants' fees. Now we have formed district participation groups. We've invited district councillors and rural committee members to join these groups. There are discussion meetings. There are also site visits, so that we could pick suitable sites together with stakeholders. So throughout the whole process, there's always district involvement. There are 7 district forums that we held. We've collected views from stakeholders and residents, and these are incorporated into the greening master plans. 4 themes: Sha Tin. We have the Floral River Banks theme, Verdant Hills Floral River Banks. We try to identify the unique feature of each district. In Sha Tin, in spring is particularly green, and then there are layers of greens, and so that's why we picked the theme Verdant Hills.
For Sai Kung, the theme is Fragrant Blossom Paths. We use bright-colored flowers and plants with fragrance to go in order to go with the theme. For Tuen Mun, the theme is Ruby Flowers, Emerald Mountain, and we would make use of existing plants in Tuen Mun Park, and we'll also have other species like Terminalia catapa. And it bodes well with the renowned Castle Peak. For Yuen Long, there are a number of migrant birds in Mai Po, and the flowers, the plants we choose go well with the bird watching season. You can see from the photos, when you look at the central divider in Yunwo Road, there are no plants at the moment, and we will plant some trees there. For Sai Kung, we chose Choi Leng Road and Chun Wang streets. In these pedestrian paths, we propose introducing plants as well. Near the Tuen Mun River, at the bike trail, we don't have any plants at the moment, and such we will also build some plant some trees. And near the Zhuhai light rail station, we will also grow some plants. And near Tinhua Road and Wang Tat Road, we would also introduce plants to the pedestrian paths to improve the overall environment. After today, hopefully we will propose our funding application to the PWSC in April. And if the funding application is approved by the FC, we can grant a contract in October this year. And we hope to grant 2 contracts. One is for Southeastern New Territories in Sai Kung, and the other is in Northwestern New Territories like Tuen Mun, including Tuen Mun. Thank you very much. According to the rules of procedure, um, 83A, if any members have any pecuniary interest in the issue, the members have to declare the nature of their interests before they can give their views. Now I'd like to invite questions from members. I recommend each member to speak for 4 minutes each, within 4 minutes. Please be punctual. Please try to keep your time, or else it will be hard for us to complete the meeting on time today. Kwok Ka-ki, Leung Chi-chun, Gary Chen, Yu Si-wing, Mr. Kwok Ka-ki. I think the public agrees with the principle of greening. However, I have a few questions on the schedule. The study was done in 2011, and now it's already 2014. If we manage to get the funding, can we do we have to wait until next year before any work is commenced? And how long do we have to wait before it's completed? If we cannot get it done before by 2017, what does the schedule look like? And for the tree species, has any consultation been done in the relevant districts apart from district councils? Have you consulted the residents? I see there are a lot of trees. Have you considered species like fruit trees? And can the residents in those districts participate? In the past, we have seen a lot of tree planting activities participated by the community, including teachers. Now, this time, are we going to have participation from community centers, schools, and students, etc.? Because this is very educational indeed. Thank you for the comments. First of all, for the construction schedule, we expect to start in October, and it can be finished within 3 years. And on the choice of plants, we have made use of the district committees and the RCs. We have held 7 forums in the 4 districts. Tuen Mun is 1 district, so we have 1 forum there. From the photos, you can see that a lot of residents have given us comments in the process. We have chosen plants to supplement our themes. the public has given a lot of valuable comments, and we have incorporated them into our plans. I'm confident that our efforts will be accepted by the residents of the different districts. For the plans, we have relied on contractors to plant trees on pedestrian paths. It's relatively difficult to hold a tree planting festival because those festivals are usually held in mountainous areas. So right now we are using a different approach. You said you need a mountain if we are to hold a tree planting festival, but I don't see any problems or difficulties if we hold such festival in town centers. Time is very limited today. Mr. Kokaki, yes, we have done such work before. Mr. Leung Chi-chung. The greening master plan is surely well received because it would help introduce green elements in urban areas. However, I have a comment for Mr. Lee. Recently, there is news that there is news in Tuen Mun that's the Tai Tong Country Park. A lot of people go to Tai Tong Park to appreciate the maple trees. So in other words, if we plant appropriate trees, and if we achieve a certain scale, I'm sure the general public will appreciate the trees. For the greening master plan, your plan is very appealing, and especially the names of the themes, they certainly sound very appealing. For Yuen Long, the theme is called Golden Sunsets. I understand some of the logic because Yuen Long has a lot of birds. But I think we should be more pragmatic. If you pass the list of proposed plans to the district councillors, they might not be able to give you a lot of comments. They will certainly agree because they don't have the technical knowledge, but we have no idea what the landscape, how the landscape will turn out at the end. There is potentially problem with the trees. What are we going to do with the existing facilities like the planters? Are we going to do something about this situation? And the second question, your project costs more than $300 million. Have you reserved another sum of money for future maintenance, or are you going to just hand it back to the LCSD? Yes, please watch your time. Thank you, Mr. Leung. The trees we propose under the different schemes won't only be planted in that district. We will look at the native species, tree species in those areas, and we will also refer to a list. We have done a lot of consultation on the different tree species proposed. If we cannot plant the trees in a particular area, we would look for other places. For the old trees, our view is that unless the trees are already dead, we don't recommend relocating old trees and replace them with new trees. And maintenance, after a year, we will hand over to LCSD, and we have reserved a sum of money for the LCSD for maintenance purposes. Mr. Gary Chen. I'm sure everyone would support greening because trees can improve roadside air quality. So this is indeed a good policy. However, I noticed that in the plan, the government is trying to improve greening, but at the same time, we have pollution. As you see, the whole project would produce 136,000 tons of construction waste, and 90% of the construction waste would go to waste, and the rest will go to public fields. If we generate so much waste because of greening, it's rather ironic. So my question for the government is, can you further reduce the amount of waste generated by the projects? But if you have 2,500 tons of waste going to landfills, can you do something about it to reduce this figure? Thank you very much, Mr. Chen. We have done estimations. The project includes more than 1 million trees, and a substantial amount of waste will be generated. We would try our best to reduce construction waste. For the 13,000 tons of waste, around 2,500 tons, or around 1 or 2%, have to go to landfills. And we will remind our contractors to do their best to minimize this figure. And the existing estimation is relatively reasonable. You cannot just say we have to believe with Mr. Lee. We have to vet the bill, and now you're telling us that there will be more than 2,000 tons of waste. How can you explain this? When we perform excavations, some materials can actually reuse at the site, or some materials can also be transported to public fields. We're not talking about inert waste. Sometimes we cannot reuse the materials at the construction sites, so they have to go to landfills. The cost of taking these waste to landfills is substantially higher than if they are transported to public fields. $27 for public fields and more than $120 for landfills. The actual figure depends on whether contractors do their jobs properly.
I'm following on Mr. Leung Chi Chung's question. You know, Hong Kong people like to travel, or in Hong Kong we like to go and look at plants or birds. Now here we're talking about a lot of money in planting. Would you consider 1 or 2 spots that are suitable, you know, where there's proper public transportation, or where the site is right? We can plant some spectator sort of plants, you know, so people could go there to admire the plants. It will help to promote the local economy of different districts, and it will also help to promote tourism. Would you do that? If not, would you try to do that? Second point about the construction costs. After completion of the projects, there are 4 districts here covering so many plants and shrubs. What is the recurrent maintenance cost per annum? Thank you, member, for your question. There are indeed flowers for appreciation, like in Sai Kung, Michelia chapensis and Michelia maudier. They are good looking, and there's a fragrance as well. And in Tuen Mun, apart from shrubs and trees, there are some 20 to 30 species of flowers that will be planted among the shrubs in the district. We believe then people will be drawn to these places to admire the scenery or the plants. On maintenance, in the PWP paper we will give a figure. So upon completion of the project, how much will be needed for maintenance? Now, we don't have the figure now, but when we go to the Public Works Subcommittee, we will be able to give an estimate on that. I asked whether you would identify 1 or 2 sites. So in terms of the layout and the planning of a flower planting, you would do give it more consideration. So people would be drawn there just to look at the flowers instead of just plant some flowers and expect and hopefully people will come. No, you try to draw people there. Now in the 4 districts, in the 4 district council boundaries, the sites that we have picked are in town centers and places where there are a lot of visitors. So these are our priority spots for planting. Any other questions, please? No? Next member, Mr. Gary Fenn. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Mr. Yu Swing asked a good question. We've asked about it many times at district level. I think about 6 or 7 years ago, I started paying attention to the GMP in Central. You used the themes that's related to golden color, but that doesn't come out too much. And Chim Sa Choi is a jade belt. And, you know, it's such a crowded place in Hong Kong. You've even considered planting between car parking spaces. So is there any reform here, major reform here? I've been a district councillor for more than a decade. Now, very often when the consultants go to consult district councils and local residents, they just ask them where they can plant more or put in more beautiful plants. But then district councils have previously suggested central dividers and so on. But the answer given was that there are underground facilities, so it's not possible. We've asked this many terms over, but then all of a sudden one government said, fine, it can be done, and so it was done. Now here, you're talking about a major project, you're spending so much on it, so after you completed you've completed the greening master plans, at least you should now have drawings on the distribution of underground facilities. So if in future there are still more resources, you don't need to do an independent investigation every time because that's expensive. You actually have to take up the road to look at the facilities underground. Or is there anything creative or innovative? like in crowded places, the Wan Chai Causeway Bay, you do a good job. You're able to plant very narrow central dividers. What about vertical greening? Now, when you talk about the golden theme for central, some green groups suggested some vegetation in the middle of the road, where their tram stops. If you could identify narrow spots for greening, you are then sending out a message to the people of Hong Kong that you are really dedicated to greening the environment as far as possible. So in terms of policy and rules and regulations, are you planning any changes? Mr. Lee? Let me answer the more specific questions first, or operational questions. On planning green master plans, it's true in the urban areas it's difficult to identify suitable sites for greening. And now we've actually picked some very narrow sites, like by the curb or side or roadside. Even when there's just a narrow strip, we would plant there. And it seems that people quite like the idea or the product. So if we could do more greening along the roadside, indeed the public would welcome it. Now our experience is that in busy roads, in the urban areas, it's true there is busy web of underground facilities. Very often we do have to dig up to see whether there is room just for planting, say, one tree. That's why it's usually easier to plant shrubs. But in anyway, where we're able to plant, usually the outcome is good. Now we've learned from our experience in greening for the urban areas. So for the new territory areas, during the planning stage, we've done more investigation or prepare more pits in advance, and we try to use non-excavation investigation tools more. And so we believe our greening efforts should be more successful in the new territories. Next, Mr. James Tan. Mr. Chairman, everyone in Hong Kong will support greening. Now, at home, Mrs. Tan takes care of the greening. But I'm a real estate developer. Also, for many sites, we try to do greening to make them more the projects more appealing. Here we are talking about $351 million for buying 1.8 million shrubs and 3,400 trees. Can you tell me how much each tree costs and how much each shrub costs? I want to break down, please. Unit cost. Well, I'll have to be general because there are different sizes of trees. Yes, I'm talking about the average unit cost. Average maybe about $4,000 or so for a tree, and shrubs. Are you sure $7,000 for a tree? Some are smaller trees, some are bigger ones. The smaller ones, of course, will be cheaper. What about the shrubs? How do we work out the cost? Apart from the tree, the cost for buying the tree, or the preparation directly related to the planting of the tree is counted. You know, the labor cost for that is counted as well. Fine. Because I'm the real estate business. I find that in Hong Kong, trees are 6 or 7 times more expensive than those in Xiamen. Of course, it makes sense because everything else costs more. $4,000 per tree, I think it's very cheap, is very reasonable. But then you work out the total cost to be $351 million, so it seems that the tree costs more than that. Flowers, seasonal flowers. Now, the consultants usually suggest to me what tree flowers to buy. The best looking days when I visit the site, but a few days after occupation, we will receive another invoice because all those seasonal flowers have died, so they need to be replaced. So how many days in a year would the flowers be looking good? How many days of the year would they be dead? Now we are picking trees here and also shrubs. As for seasonal flowers, there are relatively fewer. Because, you know, seasonal flowers, the green groups, many green groups have told us seasonal flowers have short cycles. So that's why we would usually pick the longer lasting trees and shrubs. It's suitable for the Hong Kong's climate, right? And Hong Kong's condition. Because you hear a lot of people complain when it's windy, maybe the trees don't last a month, or where there's rain, there's flooding, then the plants die. So you will find suitable sites for the planting of trees and flowers, right? Thank you, Mr. Chen. For the flowers and trees, we pick about 35% of the so-called indigenous species of Hong Kong. And for the remaining 60%, those species that have been around in Hong Kong for more than a century, so they're well established in Hong Kong. These are the common species in Hong Kong. Now, whether they will be blown away by a strong wind, well, in the past few years, when we worked in the urban areas, less than 1% of the plants were blown away by strong wind. Now, these trees and flowers, do you buy them in Hong Kong or you buy them from the mainland, right? Yes, we buy them from the mainland. Fine. I support the item. Thank you. Next, Mr. Albert Chan. Mr. Chairman, I'm glad that the government has a plan and a focus on greening. Colors, I might not object to the use of colors, but are the colors actually just sugar-coated poison? Would they be disastrous, bring about a disaster to the eco-habitat? We have to be very careful. Like in the country parks before, 90% of the trees were imported species, but now it's 80% of the trees are local species, so that's a major improvement. But then over the years, you introduced imported species, and that's caused a catastrophe to the habitat. That still remains a problem. Like dahlia, now you have introduced it to a lot of places in Hong Kong, and these imported species have evaded the habitat of local species. For local species, some have actually become extinct. Then the government's still trying to rectify the situation. So I don't want this greening master plans to bring about another catastrophe to the local habitat, because I don't know what you are planting. You know, for the shrubs and trees, please give us a detailed list. There are just three types. One are the indigenous species, and the other, what you said, settled species. You know, species that have been introduced for more than a century, they become part of our local species. And the third type is the new species being introduced into Hong Kong. So we need to look at the list. In a country park, there aren't many red trees because our climate is not suitable for planting maple trees. Well, so it may not be suitable to plant maple trees in Hong Kong. Don't do it just because some say, well, we want some red trees or maple trees, because then that may devastate our habitat. And then in different districts of Hong Kong, you should pick the special species for those districts. For example, in Lantau Island, there are special species, the Chinese bell flowers. Bell trees, there are still several hundred trees there. Now, these is our collective memory. I think we should plant trees to reinforce that collective memory. Say in each district, you will pick few species of trees or shrubs. I don't like seasonal flowers. I think it's a waste of public money and may not be good for the environment too. And we're talking about over 1 million shrubs here. So how can we ensure a balance in the ecosystem? It's not just about the appreciation value of trees. You know, we're talking about over 1 million shrubs and 3,000 trees. How do they affect the insects? You know, bees, wasps, and so on. How may they affect the ecosystem? the flora and fauna. That's important too. So, but it's not spelled out in the paper. I hope you will consider that.
Mr. Lee, please. For this project, we will not introduce any new species. 35% are local species, and the remaining 65% are common tree species in Hong Kong. In our contracts, we have a list of tree species. I agree with Mr. Chen that we will place appropriate trees in appropriate places. For the themes we chose, the trees we propose are picked in accordance with the districts. We would choose trees which are special or common in those districts. I'd like to see the list of trees. The tree species of that district, does it have anything to do with the history or heritage of that district? For Ha Pak Nai, Dr. Sun Yat-sen might have planted a particular tree a long time ago, and so the species of the trees might relate to the history of the place. Yes, we have noted this point on the list of trees. I completely agree with this PWP item 43CG greening master plans for new territories. However, we should not only do it in the new territories. We should promote this. We should carry out this greening master plan to all of Hong Kong as soon as possible. We don't need to do any pilot testing because the more trees, the better. Of course, I agree with this proposal. However, from what I saw, the choice of trees is rather random. You might have seen sakura trees in Japan. Those sakura trees often line the entire road or path in Japan. We have Bohemia, red cotton trees. Why don't we choose some of these trees to really wow the public? If we plant banks of flowers or trees, they would have a better chance of survival. When you look at other places like Japan or cities like Tokyo, you can take reference. When you look at the red cotton drive in Hong Kong, do you find any red cotton trees? If you can find red cotton trees in Red Cotton Drive, I'm sure a lot of people from Hong Kong as well as other countries would come and appreciate the beauty. I hope we can do something here. On the other hand, in hillside areas, they were infected. Our trees were infested with certain invasive species. What are we going to do? Are we going to just leave them, leave the problem as is, or are we going to let our trees die? Please respond. For the themes of different districts, we have outlined the characteristics of different districts, but our designs would certainly incorporate the characteristics of the districts. You mentioned banks of trees. These planting banks of trees is easier in relatively newer districts. For older districts or areas, if we want, for example, the Shengmun River, it already has other species. We have to wait until the existing trees die before we can plant new trees. We don't recommend removing existing species because of a particular theme. We have to strike a balance here. Simply speaking, a lot of new roads. You can plant banks of trees to really wow the visitors, but yet they don't do it. Simply speaking, everyone supports greening. But it's very difficult to find space for planting trees in areas that have the most imminent needs. We are talking about the new territories, but greening is also necessary in urban areas. So I hope the different government departments can coordinate. This morning I mentioned street lights. So why can you think from a more in a more integral manner? Like, can you consider road signs, street lights together? This is an issue of coordination between different government departments. If you pass on the projects after a year to another government department, they might not have the relevant expertise. This issue is not mentioned, so I'd just like to know more. And the issue of money. You mentioned station staff. Can you explain more about the costs of these staff? First, the maintenance issue. The LCSD has a lot of experts, including experts on trees. In the urban greening master plan the first phase commenced in 2007, the second 2009, and the third 2013. And in 2017, the 3 phases of the project were handed over to LCSD. The plant experts from LCSD have conducted site visits with our colleagues to check if all the plants comply with our requirements. So we have the expertise and experts. If you don't have figures, can you tell us how many experts does the LCSD have for all 18 districts? Right now, the LCSD has a team on trees, and this team oversees all trees in Hong Kong. And these 200 or so tree gangs are distributed in different districts, and they will take care of different projects and provide support for greening works. Do these tree gangs cover country parks? For Victoria Park, it has its own tree gang. It has a dedicated team, right? Yes. The second question, the stationed staff at construction sites. In the future, this consultants will take care of the monitoring and inspection at the construction sites. And over the 3 years in the project and the year after, this sum would cover the salaries of these resident site staff. Mr. Lam has worked in EPD, right? How are you going to reduce the amounts of waste from 2,500 tons? The issue is whether or not the government would do something. I like hiking, and I know a little bit about trees, Mr. Lee. But to be honest, I'm sure the LCSD has experts on trees. When I look at these 4 districts, I don't see Bauhinia anywhere. Pink and white Bauhinia, they are very beautiful, and they are as pretty as sakura flowers. Taiwan has a lot of these trees, and they are very beautiful. If this flower is the emblem of Hong Kong, why don't we showcase it somewhere? They really look like sakura flowers. I don't see Bauhinia anywhere. I'm okay with the choice of flowers in Sai Kung. Why don't you introduce Bauhinia? And in Tuen Mun, I agree with some of the choices. I think certain, but I think other species should be incorporated, like ginkgo trees. When you visit Beijing, they have very beautiful trees and flowers. Why don't we have any trees in our airport? My friends often say, why don't we have flowers? I visited Boston in October last year. They have banks of maple trees. I agree with the approach of using flowers to represent a district, and some of the names, they sound very nice. I agree with Lo Wai Kwok's comments. The planting of flowers should be organized. Last time we rejected the proposal for plants near Kai Tak River. I think we don't have to plant a lot of seasonal flowers, but we should go for other species. I have a question for Mr. Lee. Can we do something on the basis of the current proposal? The Bauhinia is the city flower of Hong Kong. Mr. Lam, on waste management, I'm now in a new position, but the government is really concerned with waste management. On waste reduction, we are very stringent. Design-wise, we would strive to minimize construction waste, and we would do a lot of preparation work and site investigation work to minimize the amount of waste. And for unavoidable waste, we would try to reuse them. Right now, over 99% of construction waste can be reused in public fields or at the existing construction sites. As Mr. Lee said, we provide economic incentives for contractors to encourage them to carry out waste management. Please be concise. Just now I talked about the theme flowers for each district. Apart from these flowers, the Bauhinia variegata can be found in areas like Tuen Mun. You have to have an entire bank of flowers and not just one or two. For Bauhinia variegata. We have very nice trees already in Hong Kong. Leung Kwok Hong. I think the themes sound empty to me. You have spent so much money. Have you invited any local universities to take part in this planning process? You said LCSD has experts, but yet have any local universities said anything about this proposal? I'm sure, obviously, district councils would agree with the proposal, and they are not going to have much to say anyway. Where do these 4 themes come from? Were they from your PR consultants? How did you come up with these 4 themes? Thanks for the question. When we draw up the greening master plan, there has been a lot of district participation through public forums and consultations. We have received many rounds of feedback and gave response. When we came to the issue of theme, there is a Greening Master Committee headed by the director of CED. The director of CED, why would the director for CED be chairing such a committee? The committee consists of members from architect charters, representatives from landscaping societies, Professor Jim Chi-Yong from HKU, as well as representatives from other government departments. Professor Jim and representatives from the District Council gave us valuable comments. They have given us advice on how to plant these trees. For example, requirements of contractors, the seeds of the trees, etc. They have given us a lot of opinion. In the 2 contracts coming up, we will introduce improvement measures. First, we have strict requirements on the tree seeds. Can you show us the documents from that committee, from the committee you mentioned? The second point, earlier we were talking about rescuing these trees because they are dying. So what's happening to those trees now?
We could give you a list of representatives on the committee. We're told there are over 200 in the tree gangs working in the 18 districts. Now, before, trees were dying too quickly, and so you had to survey all the trees across the territory. Have you finished the exercise? The 200 odd people, they're not on the committee. No, I'm talking about tree gangs. There are over 200 in the tree gangs across the territory, right? Well, the tree gangs had their hands full saving trees. They were to survey all trees to see if they were dying. Have you finished the survey? I think just now the question was about tree maintenance those in charge of tree maintenance in the LCSD, those working in the tree gangs. But actually, there are different colleagues involved in different departments, and in some cases we have contracted out the work. Apart from maintaining trees, there's also risk assessment involved. This is an ongoing task for the department, and every year before the typhoon seasons we would actively do the survey, and we monitor the progress too. Thank you, Dr. Lam Tai-Fai. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hong Kong is a crowded place. It's densely populated. There is exhaust gas and noise everywhere. Of course, I'm all in support of greening master plan, because that would help to improve the air quality and the overall living condition. It will, of course, then benefit the standard of living of the people of Hong Kong. It may help to promote harmony, and there'll be less grievances. So it's not just about something looking pretty, but I mean, it makes people feel better, and there will be less grievances, I'm sure. But greening is expensive. It will cost a lot to maintain the greening, but what is important is that there must be even distribution. In the new territories, there are 9 districts, but you've only got 4 themes. What about the remaining 5 districts? What do you plan to do there? These 4 themes, just now Mr. Leung Kwok Hong questioned how you came up with the 4 themes, and then you have to set another 5 themes for the other districts. That will be even more challenging. And then for trees or flowers, of course they have life cycle, but then there must be something fresh from time to time. So you might have to keep renewing the species, or bring in something new. So it's not so it won't be the case that every time people come home or people go hiking, they see the same trees over and over again, or same flowers over and over again. There are 9 districts in the new territories. How come you just have 4 themes? What about the 5 districts? What do you plan to do? Are you going to come with 5 other themes so everybody will be happy? If I can take the first question first. Thank you, Dr. Lam. In 2011, May, we started a study on the 4 districts. 9 months later, we started a study on the other 5 districts. For the other 5 districts, we are doing exactly the same thing. We are now in discussion with the different districts, and then we are holding district forums to formulate the greening master plans. It's hoped that by the end of 2014 we could complete work on the other 5 districts. So in line with established procedures, we will work on the other 5 districts as well. On renewal of plants, hopefully after we've planted the trees and shrubs, they will thrive in the district. But when we talk about renewal, we may be thinking about flower beds in parks. But here in the NT, we're talking about concentrated planting in certain spots like tourist attractions or town centers. So that's a different idea. The idea of renewal may not apply so much to our greening plans. It's not like the flower beds in parks. Well, of course we support greening, but I think it's a matter for all 7 million people in Hong Kong. How do you raise people's awareness after you've completed these projects, so we could all help to keep these plants in good shape? The themes may not be so important, but if people keep mentioning themes and everybody will embrace them better, it might help to gain more support from the public. Can you do some competitions like writing competitions and so on? Because then people could help you promote the greening effort. Well, just a quick response, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Lam. We have colleagues going to secondary and primary schools to brief them on our greening effort. I thank you for your suggestions, like a writing or essay competitions. We'll see what we could do more in such respects. Ms. Sitho. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in all favor of more greening. It shouldn't be just green. There should be colorful flowers that will make us happy. But there's no point trying to dress up the themes, you know, and playing with the words. But if I may pick up on Mr. Leung Kwok Hong's question, how do you decide on the species for the 4 districts? I think you should first consider local species in districts. If a certain species thrive in certain districts, that must mean that these are the suitable species. But if you want to introduce other species, maybe they are not suitable given the topography or the wind directions. So as you decide on the theme species for each district, you must first and foremost consider the local species in the district. For instance, in Repulse Bay, that's a special shadow tree because it grows well in the in sand. So, and then University of Hong Kong, azalea. When azalea blossoms, and that means it's examination season, so students start to panic because they've been fooling around probably, and now they realize that exams are just around the corner. So how do we decide on the theme species? And do you always have regard to the local species in the districts? And if you're introducing new species, have you done any detailed assessment to see whether these new species would grow well in a particular district, given its topography, wind directions, and so on? I don't want you to do something like, you know, the planters. They just last a year or two. After a typhoon, they'll be gone, and it would be a waste of public money. Thank you, Ms. Ho, for your questions. When we complete the entire exercise, we give it theme consisting of 4 characters just to sum up the theme. But it's not that we'll first decide a theme and then we will just try to come up with the trees. But rather, usually when we pick plant species, we'll have regard to the local species in the area. For example, in Tuen Mun Garden, Tuen Mun Park, they have the Dilonus regia, so we keep to that. So we have to look at the characteristics of each district, and we'll see what local species there are, and then we will pick the right species. So the theme, the name, may be the end product, but rather instead of us first setting a theme and then we try to pick flowers that suit the theme, it's the other way around rather. For example, in Ha Bak Nai, Yuen Long, they have a lot of shrubs or trees. So there are some common species, say in Maipo, and so we're keeping to those species. I fully agree with the member. First, we will have to see what characteristics there are in a particular district. So we're just trying to, it's like icing on the cake. That's what we're trying to do. I've asked them which species are already thriving and what new species there are. Well, when you introduce new species, I asked whether you have done assessment. Of course, you would say yes. But you know, which are the local species and which are the species that you are introducing? Just now, I mentioned in Tuen Mun Park, there's the Dilonus regia, and then Yuen Long, Cinnamomum, and Tarbubia. And what is common is the subspecies, there's the Melaleuca. So these are the examples I mentioned. Okay, next. Second round, no, we don't have time. Just 1 minute. I just have a quick question. Because colleagues would have different ideas about the themes you said, but then you have to set a theme. Otherwise, people will criticize that there is no character to your plan, but then is a theme accepted by the public, and whether it's creative, that's one issue. At the Sai Kung District Council meeting, some people suggested planting a particular flower because there's the dragon boat racing there every year, but then at the end the government did not take on board the suggestion. Well, that's why I cited the example. Central, you have some sort of a golden theme, so it's befits the image of Central as a financial center. You don't need to answer some question. I'm just giving you some ideas. That's all.
13 district legislative members have given their comments. We might not be able to end this item by 4:30, so let's draw a line here. Hopefully the administration should take into account the comments. Do you agree with the administration filing a funding application to the PWSC? On to the next item on the agenda. Feasibility study on the relocation of Sham Tseng sewage treatment works to caverns, relocation of Sai Kung sewage treatment works to caverns, and relocation of Diamond Hill fresh water and saltwater service reservoirs to caverns. Let's invite the administration. I'd like to welcome the administration representatives first. I won't introduce them one by one. You already have the list. Please briefly outline your plan. A PowerPoint presentation will be used. Please be concise. The administration, please. I will make a brief introduction first, and then we'll talk about the PowerPoint presentation. And the government has always sought to optimize land use to both with social development and the use of rock caverns. The development of caverns is one solution. And according to a study conducted by the government, 2/3 of Hong Kong, of the land in Hong Kong, is suitable for rock cavern development. And placing not in my backyard facilities such as sewage treatment works in caverns can remove incomparable land uses and improve the living environment of the local community. And the development of caverns can meet the development needs of the society, including the relocation of facilities or the construction of new facilities. The government will adopt a multi-pronged approach to enhance land use, land supply. And in 2011, a feasibility study was conducted on the possibility of using rock caverns, and three sites were proposed, including Sham Tseng sewage treatment works, Sai Kung sewage treatment works, and Diamond Hill service reservoirs. And these three proposals were feasible and supported by the public. And their relocation can release about 6.3 hectares of land for more beneficial land uses. And we recommend a further feasibility study to identify and address the issues associated with the relocation proposals. And these facilities will be managed by DSD and Water Supplies Department. Let me invite the WS. I'd like to outline the two feasibility studies for the Sham Tseng and Sai Kung sewage treatment works. And the Water Supplies Department will outline the feasibility study for Diamond Hill reservoirs. in public consultation sessions, 3 sites were proposed, including Diamond Hill, Sai Kung, and Sham Tseng, and these 3 sites were chosen in the pilot scheme. First, the feasibility study on the relocation of Sham Tseng sewage treatment works to caverns. The area is 1.1 hectares. Right now, it offers primary chemical sewage processing for the district, and the daily capacity is 17,000 square meters of sewage. The orange dot lines shows the current location of the Sham Tseng sewage treatment works, and according to the recommendation from CEDD, the plants will be relocated to the area outlined by the blue dotted lines, and the study area for the relocation is highlighted with the pink dotted lines, and the Sai Kung sewage treatment works. It's located in Wild Folk Street. The area is 2.2 hectares. It offers secondary sewage treatment, and the daily capacity is 80,000 square meters of sewage. The orange dot lines shows the current location of the plants. According to CEDD's recommendation, the preliminary location of relocation is 350 meters to the southwest. The area in blue dotted lines, and the study area is enclosed in the by the purple dotted lines. According to CEDD's recommendations, when the sites were considered, we thought about the these three factors. First, the caverns are suitable for the geographical conditions are suitable for cavern construction. Second, it's close to other sewage treatment works, and third, it's on government land, and we can minimize projects costs as a result. Most of the sites proposed are on government land, and we would not need to use private land. We will continue to factor in other considerations. The area of the feasibility studies cover 4 main areas. First, we will conduct a preliminary technical and impact assessment, draw up a design plan for the project, and set up and establish a schedule. And we will conduct planning review for future land use, as well as a technical assessment. And we will determine whether the project is cost effective. We will also involve the public and consult all the stakeholders. At the same time, we will carry out site investigation to provide data for the construction projects. We hope to establish the viability of relocating the sewage treatment works in order to move on to the next stage. We expect to commence the feasibility studies in August. It will take 2 years. For 401 DS, the estimated cost is 39.2 million, and for the public consultation, the CEDD and DSD consulted the Tsuen Wan District Council in May 2013 and January this year, and the feasibility studies have been conducted. And at the same time, the CEDD and DSD consulted the Sai Kung District Council in May 2013 and March 2014, respectively. during these consultation sessions, there are a few main areas of concern, including transportation, environment, noise, and we will address these concerns. After the feasibility studies for Sham Tseng and Sai Kung treatment parts, we will carry out site investigation and design and commence the relocation works. On the 8th of April, the PWSC we submitted the funding application to PWSD. I'll hand the floor to the WSD to talk about the Diamond Hill projects.
Questions from members? You haven't finished? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, next I'm going to walk you through the Diamond Hill freshwater and saltwater surface reservoirs, the relocation to caverns feasibility study. The green part is the existing site of the Diamond Hill facilities. Further down the picture, that's the site for the saltwater surface reservoirs. And to the left, the blue enclosed area, that's where we're going to relocate to. The facilities now take about 3 hectares of land. In this earlier CDD study, this is granite, so therefore it's suitable for cavern development. Now, in this study, we're trying to see if there are merits in the relocation. So, first of all, we can see that 3 hectares of land could be released for housing or other purposes in future. The primary consideration of the site, as I said, the site condition is that it's granite mostly, so suitable for cavern development. And also it's close to the existing fresh and saltwater surface reservoirs, so the relocation would be more straightforward. And then also the site is mostly government land. The feasibility study would cover technical assessment. It's hoped that the consultants will also prepare the master plan of the project, the program, and so on. And there should be review of land use and other technical assessments too in relation to the relocation. We will also ask the consultants firm to conduct public consultation exercises. We want to see what the stakeholders and others have to say about the future land use of the site. And of course, the consultant must do site investigation and try to obtain more information about the ground condition. The program will start in November this year, and the study will be completed in November 2016. It's estimated to cost about $46 million. In May 2013, the CDD consulted the Wong Tai Sin District Council on the proposed feasibility study. We had the support of the Wong Tai Sin District Council. And in March this year, we have submitted some papers in relation to the feasibility study to the Wong Tai Sin District Council. Now, what we hope to do is to ascertain the feasibility of relocating the 2 surface reservoirs. We'll do investigation and design, and then we will start the relocation. That's what we plan to do. Thank you. Thank you. Questions? In accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure, members, if you wish to declare interest on any direct or indirect pecuniary interests, please do so before you speak. You have to disclose the nature of the interest before you can speak. Members, questions, please. Can I propose 4 minutes each for questions and answers for each member? So please be very concise, because we have only 2.5 hours left. On the queue, we have Dr. Lam Kai Fai, Mr. Gary Fan, Mr. Frederick Fung, Ms. Alice Mack, Mr. Yu Kwok Him. Dr. Lam. Well, we have a short supply of land, and there's little flexibility in land use. That's actually the biggest challenge we face in Hong Kong. And because of this challenge, in terms of housing supply or improvement of community facilities, is a tough job for the government. So I'm in support of the cave-in development idea. Reclamation is a different story, of course. We have to consider that further. Now, it said that as there's a study completed, enhanced use of underground space in Hong Kong completed in 2011. About 2/3 of the land in Hong Kong is suitable for cave-in development. So how many hectares are we talking about? 2/3 of the land in Hong Kong that's suitable for cave-in development. The Diamond Hill Service Reservoir Feasibility Study. Even if funding is approved, it will be another 2 or 3 years before the study is completed. So it takes 2 to 3 years just to do a study. And then by the time you decide to proceed with the plan, we talk about 10 or 20 years later before the relocation is completed. Can you tell us, please? Now, I support developments in caverns, because then we could release site for other uses, say for community facilities, or even better, for public housing. Now, for the Sham Tseng and the Sai Kung sewage treatment work and the Diamond Hill water service reservoirs, apart from these facilities, what other government facilities could be moved to caverns? So I want to know how many more hectares of land that could be released for use. So how many more facilities could be relocated, please? Can we get a better idea? Thank you, Dr. Lam, for your support and for your views. 2/3 of the land in Hong Kong, we're talking about the total land area in Hong Kong. Here, though, we're talking about the ground condition and the location. But as to whether those sites are suitable for cave development, there are other considerations as well, for example, accessibility. Then this is misleading. It says here about 2/3 of the land in Hong Kong is suitable for the development. That means then we could move things to the caverns here. No, here we're talking about the topographical and geological perspectives. 2/3 of land in Hong Kong is suitable. That's what is written here. Well, I think this is very misleading anyway. Please continue. When that could be completed, including the study, the detailed design, and so on. Of course, we have to go through a process. There is also a need to engage the public. Now, usually when we do relocation, we have to first build a new plant before we could move the facilities there, and then the old facilities could be demolished. Usually, that's why the lead time is rather long. Usually it would take about 10 years at least for the whole relocation exercise to be completed. But in the course of the study, it's hoped that the consultant will come up with ways to speed up things. And then we could complete the project as soon as possible. Are there other government facilities that could be moved to caverns? The next paper is on the Sha Tin sewage water works, sewage treatment works. Yes, I know sewage treatment works, service reservoirs. What else? That's what I'm asking. Well, the CDD is actually doing a long-term study on long-term strategy for cave-in development. In that study, we are looking into a systematic relocation of government facilities. We are doing the study now. It's hoped that the study will be completed by 2015. When we have initial ideas, we will consult the public. is expected that it will be around the middle of next year, and that will be a more systematic exercise. We won't be just looking at individual projects as pilot projects like these ones. Mr. Gary Fan, I have 2 queries and 2 questions. The first query, looking at the general aspects, it doesn't matter if it's reclamation or relocation to caverns. Okay, you release land and then you increase your land reserve. Only then you would talk to the local districts as to how you plan land use. No, it's not the way it's done before. You do everything at the same time. Take the example of Sha Tin sewage treatment works. Residents were saying that, okay, you have moved facilities that causes nuisance, but maybe in future buildings would be put up there, and then their views would be blocked, and so on. Then the feedback to the government would be completely different. Now you're talking about increasing the land reserve and then using sites for community purposes. All these should go ahead at the same time. Now I'd like to talk about the Sai Kung sewage treatment works here. In the documents you submitted to LegCo, I see a flaw there. I happen to be a Sai Kung district councillor. Earlier, when you submitted the paper to the Sai Kung district council, you provided a lot more details in the document than in this document. Here, it's not just about relocating the sewage treatment works to caverns. You said in your other paper that there could be reclamation. How come such information is not submitted to LegCo so members could consider the proposal with the full information? This is not just a minor omission. Can you not provide all this information so that before we have a discussion on this next time? For the Sai Kung sewage treatment works, now, right now, the existing sewage treatment works is by the seaside, but you have to go through residential developments before you could reach there. But so in future, when you're going to do works, there will be major heavy machineries going past the area. How might that affect the residential developments and the habitats there? That's the first question. Second one, after you have moved the Sai Kung sewage treatment works, would you, before you actually move it, would you also at the same time consult the public on the land use, future land use? Let me first answer the question on planning or land use. Well, yes, we do take the approach of consulting on both aspects at the same time. But perhaps you are talking about even earlier consultation on land use. Because as I said just now, if we are to relocate the government facilities, usually it will take at least 10 years. Of course, we are now doing a review on land use, but that's at the preliminary stage. So our plan is that a few years before the completion of the relocation, we'll do a detailed design and engineering study. And then at that stage, we would decide on the detailed land use, and then we will consult the public. So before the completion of relocation, usually we would also do planning for land use at the same time. But I know, but you won't go back. You would weigh the different social benefits, and then in the process you would stop, or you would give up on the plan. No, you would still go ahead. That is, relocation has been decided upon, but land use, well, we can talk about it more. But I don't think that's the right way to go about it. Sai Kung sewage treatment works, there will be reclamation project at the same time, but these are, you could see them as 2 separate projects, or you could see them as one project. Here we're talking about the Sai Kung feasibility study on relocating the Sai Kung sewage treatment works. If we take it separately, there's no problem. For the Sai Kung sewage treatment works, we've proposed a small-scale reclamation, because we need to move some government facilities. We also need to add breakwaters there. We've consulted the Sai Kung District Council. The Sai Kung District Council fully supports the project. So you can regard this feasibility study as a major project, or the minor reclamation is a minor project. So there's no need to seek funding from LegCo. That's why it's not included in the paper. Next, please. Mr. Frederick Fung. We have an urgent need for land in Hong Kong. Any means that would help us find more land, we must consider it. But of course, when it comes to the choice of site, I hope the government would consult the local district council. And then for those to be affected, like shop operators and others, they should be consulted as well. There's been some rather unpleasant experience in Sham Tseng in this respect. Annex 2, Sai Kung sewage treatment plant works, enclosure 2. The blue part, the blue shaded part is the cavern, right? Is it within the country park? And another question is on enclosure 1. Sham Tseng sewage treatment works, the cavern behind it. Is there an easier way to get land instead of using the caverns? Maybe. What about clearing the mountain there? The black dotted line, that area enclosed by the black dotted line. Could that whole site, you just remove the mountains in that area? Maybe then you end up having more land. For the Sai Kung sewage treatment works, is to be relocated to the mountain on the other side. On top, yes, is the country park. That's why in the feasibility study we have to handle that with care. That is within the country parks areas. We have to consider it carefully together with the relevant departments. Can I ask a follow-up, please? Country parks, is very much cherished by many people in Hong Kong. Can you guarantee that there will be no impact on the country park when you carry out works? We'll be very careful to see what the impact is and what mitigation measures there are. We want to make sure that the park is not affected. The other question about the Sham Tseng, would it be better just to clear the mountain? The Sham Tseng mountain, there's a tall mountain. If you cut the mountain from above, and then remove it. We're talking about long vertical distance. But anyway, in the feasibility study, we'll review if that's actually the case. We'll see whether it's possible, whether it's cost less. We'll see. So clearing the mountain could be one of your options, not the necessary case that you will go for the cavern, definitely.
Any other questions, Alice Mack? For the feasibility studies, will we study upgrading the sewage treatment works? Since we are doing feasibility studies anyway, if you're planning relocation anyway, would you take this chance to enhance the category of the sewage treatment works? Right now, the Sai Kung plant is belongs to category B. Will you keep the same? Will you keep the same scale when you relocate the treatment works, or can you possibly upgrade these facilities? Another question is, will the cavern developments cause nuisance to the residents in terms of noise or transportation? I'm aware that there are cemeteries for the indigenous residents in some areas. Will they be affected, and how would you solicit support from the residents? Would you include these things in your feasibility studies? Thank you, Chairman. On the upgrade of sewage treatment works, we are following the water quality standards set out by WSD. If we are to upgrade the plants, it would cost more. We are following WSD's water quality standards when we determine the category of the plants, and we would also look at the quality requirements of the water bodies. We would adhere to the current standards, and if necessary, we will review the discharge levels with the EPD. We would communicate closely with the EPD on the actual needs and requirements. In our feasibility studies, in the construction process, we would look at any travel impacts, and we would see if any noise would be resulted from blasting works, or will we have any problems with dust. We will study all these factors, and if there are any impacts, we would introduce mitigation measures in order to conform with the standards. Right now, some people are saying that our ordinances are outdated. In the future, will we enhance our standards on water quality, and will we have to upgrade our treatment works in the future? Relocation of these facilities to caverns takes at least 10 years. So I think in the feasibility studies, we should take future needs and developments into account. Or else, after we relocate the facilities to caverns, if we are to perform any upgrades, it will be very challenging. In terms of design, we would take this into account in designing the facilities. We would take future water quality requirements into consideration. We will work closely with the relevant departments to see if there's need to upgrade our water quality. And we would also use this chance to see if our sewage treatment works can be upgraded in terms of technology. Yep, quite why. I think relocating these facilities to caverns have many benefits, and I agree with this proposal. In the process of relocation, there is bound to be different views, but in the long run, this is an appropriate solution. Over the course of relocation, the vacated land space might lead to concerns from the residents. Would the vacated land be used for new residential developments? And this could potentially impact the views, the landscaping views of the district, of the area. As far as I know, the Sham Tseng residents have such concern already. So what would you do to alleviate such concerns from the residents? For Sai Kung, when you perform the relocation, there is actually a very narrow path linking the area with the Sai Kung roads. Will there be any traffic concerns? We can anticipate there will be a lot of trucks and heavy vehicles. The demand, the stress on transportation is high. Will you improve the transportation systems in the relevant areas in order to avoid nuisance to the residents? Thank you very much for your comments. Let me try to address the concern of the residents. In our feasibility studies, there would be public participation. If we receive any suggestions, they will be forwarded to the district council. On the location of Sham Tseng sewage treatment works, the facility is not located near residential blocks, and it's actually located in a corner, so there wouldn't be any big impacts on the views. Can Mr. Cheng respond? Thank you, Chairman. On traffic impacts, our feasibility studies will include traffic impact assessments. There will be trucks. We will estimate the number of heavy vehicles per day, and we will review whether the local traffic network can meet our needs, and if not, we can consider using ships. And in the morning rush hours, we might prohibit the trucks from using the roads, and these are some of the things we will consider in order to alleviate traffic concerns. Mr. Kwokaki. Relocating sewage treatment works to caverns is a good idea. However, if the government during the public consultation, the government doesn't explain the future uses of the vacated areas to the residents, it's unfair. If these vacated land are used for building building residential flats, then it's unfair. You should have told the residents earlier. When you talk about Sham Tseng, Sai Kung, or Diamond Hill, did you explain to the residents whether you will build skyscrapers? I've noticed that the government is actively seeking land nowadays, but I'm aware that the sewage treatment works have a certain lifespan. What are the lifespans of these 3 sewage treatment works, and when will they expire? How much will you spend on the relocations? From the papers, these 3 plots of land only consist of about 6 hectares. So is the project actually cost effective? Thank you very much for the question. On the use of the vacated land lots, we have recommendations. We will have recommendations in our feasibility studies. We won't have very specific land use recommendations. These venues are close to developed areas, so we are looking at residential developments or community facilities. So these are the most probable use. Are we going to build any walled buildings? We will consider ventilation and other factors. Probably walled buildings won't be an option. If you say the total area of these areas are only 6 hectares, please note that these venues are close to developed areas, and there are advantages because they are close to existing facilities. The areas are not very big, but they do have strategic significance. The sewage treatment works have natural high lifespan, so maybe Mr. Chen can explain. Sewage treatment works have to be renovated every 20 or 30 years, and certain equipment have to be replaced. Maybe Mr. Wu can give us more on this. For the Sham Tseng plants, it was put into use in 2002, and for the Sai Kung plants, it was launched in 1988. The relocations, as we mentioned, will take at least 10 years. For the Sai Kung plants, after the relocation, by the time it's relocated, it would have been operating for more than 30 years. The case is similar for Sham Tseng. If all goes to plan, by that time it would have been operating for more than 20 years. What's the natural lifespan of sewage treatment works? We are talking about sewage treatment, so the sewage is corrosive in nature, and every 10 years or so we would replace the pumps. Other facilities of the plants, like water tanks, might have longer lifespans. But at the end of the day, we are talking about sewage, which are corrosive in nature. They are more corrosive than tap water. So we need to perform constant maintenance and repair. What's the lifespan of which plant has been operating for the longest period of time? Probably Sai Kung. The Sha Tin plant launched in 1982. So the earliest treatment plants were launched in the end of 1970s or early 80s. But the point is, constant maintenance is needed. Mr. Fernando Chang. Thank you, Chairman. For these three projects, we are only at a preliminary stage, and it will take more than 20 million. If these projects are confirmed, what are the total estimated costs? We support the relocation of these facilities to caverns if it means we can have more vacated land. But I also agree with other members' concerns. Will the residents really benefit from these relocations, or will these vacated land be used to build walled buildings or luxury homes? The venue of the relocation for the Sai Kung plant might affect some residents. Have you conducted any studies on this issue, on the cost? The actual cost can only be determined after the feasibility studies are done. But we did come up with some estimations earlier. When we think about relocation, we also consider the cost effectiveness. We will consider the value of the vacated land, whether or not there will be upgrading costs for the facilities, and other hidden costs like impacts to the environment. We would factor in all these considerations before coming up with the relocation plans. So simply speaking, for all these projects, we believe they are all cost effective, but for detailed figures, we have to wait until the feasibility studies are done. Can you give us some preliminary figures? The figures are not very accurate at this stage because the costs would depend on changes to the proposals. We have to look at the possible land use in the future. You want us to pass these proposals in order to obtain funding. We are talking about more than $120 million total for these 3 projects. Since we are talking about public money, we have to know whether you have done your math. You're telling us that you are just estimating, giving us rough figures. We cannot just trust your estimations. I think it's reasonable that we have some preliminary calculations or figures in order to monitor your projects. If you just say you think these projects are fine and you're asking us to vote, this is not reasonable. We are just trying to obtain funding for the feasibility studies. For the next stage of investigation, we would need more money, and we will come back to LegCo at that stage, and we will come back again to apply for funding for the construction phase. So we have to. So it takes time. My first and second questions weren't answered, so do I have to wait for the next round?
The second part is about Zhuhai, the impact on Zhuhai residents in Sai Kung. The cavern will be hidden away in the mountains. From past experience, there should be minimal impact on residents nearby. But of course, in the feasibility study, we'll look at all possible impacts. Thank you. Deputy Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, I support making better use of land. Here is about feasibility studies at 3 locations. Is it the case that it's urgent for all 3 sites? I don't know if you're going to do the study on the 3 sites together. But what about the next step? Is it to be done together for all 3 sites? If you do 3 feasibility studies, is it all under one contract? Or would there be separate contracts? How many consultants are able to take on this kind of work? Because you are throwing out 3 sites at the same time. Or if there could be priorities for the different sites, then we must know too. Now, if you want to upgrade the project to category A and there are priorities, different priorities for the 3 projects, then you may just proceed with 1 or 2 first, because there are so many caverns in Hong Kong. Are you going to work on all of them? So can you come and explain, please? Thank you, Mr. Deputy Chairman. There are 3 separate contracts for the 3 feasibility studies. It's true, in the feasibility study, the implementation program will be looked at. Priorities for the 3 sites. I think we will have to consider it after the feasibility study is done. But of course, all 3 are pilot projects. I just mentioned another study. There's a long-term strategy study on cavern development. Here we're talking about drawing a plan for systematic relocation of government facilities to caverns. And in that case, of course, for the list, there will have to be priorities. As for these 3 projects, will we take them up in one go, or whether there's need to set priorities, we'll have to see based on the local needs near at the time. Well, I'm saying that I'm asking if there should be priorities, because now you are rolling out either you're rolling out a lot of projects or there's nothing. But these are just pilot projects. Can you first do, in your study, can you consider whether you should do the 3 together or whether there should be priorities? Another point on the study, the generation of construction waste. Of course, the study itself would not generate a lot of construction waste. That would the study also consider at this point whether a lot of waste might be generated? So my first question is, can there be different priorities to 3 projects instead of just doing them in one go? And the second one is the scope of the feasibility study. What does it cover? Thank you, Deputy Chairman. It's not a major project. It doesn't have much of an impact on the consultancy market, I believe. But it takes a long time to develop land, so we have to take it a step at a time. And the feasibility study could be seen as the first step in the process. And before we implement the findings of the feasibility study, we could look at it at a form of land reserve. It's just coming in different forms, that's all. So after we've done the feasibility study, then we'll look at the local needs, the district needs, and then we'll set priorities. Time's up. Construction waste. Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, construction waste. Rocks and mud excavated from cavern could be reused, the majority of it. It's not waste, this is fill material. Especially rock is a very valuable construction material, so there shouldn't be much construction waste. Okay, that's the end of discussion for this item. Members, do you support the government going to the Public Works Subcommittee to seek funding for the different projects in the paper? Before going to the Finance Committee, because just now the Deputy Chairman asked about the pressure on government finances and the works program, that's a cause of concern. So could you provide some information on the pressure to be borne by the entire works program? Can you do it in phases instead of in one go? Mr. Chairman, as I said, these 3 are just feasibility studies. There's nothing to do with the works yet. But even on consultants, that's tight, you know, there's strong demand for consultancy service now. That's why I've asked you to set priorities, otherwise you end up spending a lot more. And then in our sectors, either we have too much, we're overwhelmed with work, or we're starved to death without any work. So provide a bit more information, please, when you go to the PWSC. Okay, then you still have another chance to ask questions at the PWSC meeting. A quick one. Okay, please be very quick. In principle, we support relocating sewage treatment works to caverns, and we support in principle releasing, vacating more land. But then today, there's not enough information to show me that spending this $100 million would serve a purpose. I'm not against the projects, but when they go to the Public Works Committee, they should give us the initial data that they mentioned, so they could prove that the 3 projects are cost-effective and there would be minimal impact on the environment and residents. At least I need to know that they have done such calculation and consideration before I could support it. Otherwise, it's not possible for me to support these projects. I just want to raise one condition. I asked a question that is, during consultation, you should, at the same time, not after the land reserve is increased, at the same time you must let the public and different groups to weigh the different options, that whether it's for cavern or for reclamation, you must do consultation on the possible land uses for sites vacated. So then for district councils and residents, they will be able to weigh the pros and cons. Otherwise, there's no way I could support the project. Well, they're not forcing you to support the project. It's not just no. I'm not just one member who's asked this point. Several members have raised the same point. If they can't answer my question, I cannot support the projects. Now, you say that we're talking about a 10-year time span, then you must do it. Will you answer the question? If not, then let's move on to the next item. Mr. Chairman, I think it's hard to say so soon what the detailed land use is, because if we're talking about a long time span, maybe community needs will change, and so things might change. And definitely before relocation will come with detailed proposal. Now I'm saying this is not the right approach, because then you can't go back. And so it's hard for us to judge whether this is appropriate. It's not a debate here. Let's move on to the next item. If you wish, you could object at the Public Works Subcommittee meeting. We still have 3 items to deal with, and we might not be able to finish. And then again, we'll have to reschedule one of the items for the next meeting, and this goes on. So if you have further questions, you could ask your questions at the PWC meeting, okay? Next, item 6 on the agenda. Again, is relocation of Sha Tin sewage treatment works to caverns. Maybe we can't finish the agenda, then we should release the officials. Don't keep them waiting. Yes, we can ask. Revision of fees for services under the purview of the Buildings Department. Do you think we should cover it today? Because I think we will spend a lot of time on the Hong Kong Zhuhai Macao Bridge item. In that case, are we supposed to go up till 6:25? Even if we extend the meeting by 15 minutes, you don't think we could finish? You say that the Hong Kong Zhuhai Macao Bridge item would take a lot of time. I don't know. It's for you to assess, Mr. Chairman. Okay, let's finish the Sha Tin item first, and we'll see how far we are. Item 6, relocation of Sha Tin sewage treatment works to caverns. The officials are here. I'd like to welcome the government representatives. The attendance list is tabled, so I'm not going to introduce them one by one. Government representatives, please give short presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just now we mentioned that in 2011, the CDD completed a study on enhancing the use of underground space in Hong Kong. And in the studies found that the Sha Tin sewage treatment works could be relocated to caverns, and we could release some 28 hectares of land for other purposes. The Drainage Services Department conducted a feasibility study, including the initial technical assessment, site identification, and so on. Is to make sure that the relocation is cost effective. There were also 2 stages of public engagement. At the end of 2013, the feasibility study was completed for relocating the Sha Tin sewage treatment works to the Nui Po Shan site in Kung Kok is considered technically feasible. And there are other social environmental benefits to be reaped from the relocation. First, we could release 28 hectares of land. This is a site by the seaside. It's a beautiful site, so it could be used for residential development. There could also be commercial development that could create jobs, and government facilities could also be provided to meet community needs. And the quality of living could be enhanced for residents living in the area, and the cavern is a natural barrier. It could contain the odor. It could also enhance the sewage treatment facilities actually with this relocation. And in the public engagement exercises, the feedback we got was that in general the public supported the relocation of the Sha Tin sewage treatment works to caverns. Perhaps my colleague could brief you on the feasibility study and the investigation findings. Please be very brief with the presentation.
Yes, please be brief. Yes, I'll make it quick. Thank you, Chairman, members. The paper is 399DS, Relocation of Sha Tin Sewage Treatment Works to Caverns and Upgrading the Facility to Category A. And this picture shows the current site of the Sha Tin Sewage Treatment Plants. It spans 28 hectares around the area of Victoria Park. It's currently it's a secondary treatment plant. Are you done? Not yet. Please make it brief. Apart from the social and environmental benefits, it's also cost-effective. When we performed assessment, we factored in a number of considerations, including the cost of relocation, the value of the current plots of land, and if we don't perform the relocation, the existing maintenance, the cost of maintenance of the existing plant, and the plant will be relocated to Noi Po Shan of A Kung Kok. The plants will be constructed in the cavern. There will be a main entrance, a backup entrance, and auxiliary activity facilities. And it's relatively far from residential blocks. Apart from relocating the plants, the facilities have to be relocated as well. The location of the sink pumping stations are outlined in the blue area in the lower bank of the river. Currently, the sewage discharged by the Sha Tin and Tai Po sewage treatment plants will be discharged to Victoria Harbour via Wong Tai Sin. And extra relocation work have to be done. For the feasibility reports, it was started in May 2012. And the most appropriate venue of relocation was confirmed at Noi Po Shan. And we also paid a site visit to caverns in Scandinavia, and we also visited underground sewage treatment plants in Asia. We have held public consultation sessions to optimize the relocation proposal with various stakeholders. For public engagement, we have done roving exhibitions, engagement sessions. We have demonstrated odor removing devices so the public can understand the deodorizing capabilities of the devices. We also visited the Stanley sewage treatment plant. We finished preliminary studies, including impacts to the geography, environment, traffic, and impacts to the current facility. The preliminary studies have been completed, and we have confirmed the plan to relocate. We consulted the Sha Tin District Council last year, and they have given their support in terms of moving on to the next stage of site investigation. The site investigation and design includes preliminary and detailed design work, a detailed impact assessment report, public engagement and consultation, site investigation, and the drafting of tender documents and assessment of tenders received. If the funding is granted, we will begin our investigation and design next year. Let me remind members, time is limited and we still have a number of items on the agenda. If no one disagrees, for the last item on the agenda, which is revision of fees for services under the purview of Buildings Department, I propose postponing the discussion of this item till the next meeting. We expect a lot of questions in the upcoming items on the agenda, so time is very limited. So maybe administration representatives who are involved in item 9 may leave first. Does anyone disagree? If not, according to Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure, if any members have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in the issue, you must disclose the nature of the relevant interest before you speak. Members may ask questions. You have 4 minutes each, including time for the government to reply. Please be concise in your questions. We have 4 members. Chen Wei-Yip, Fernando Cheung, Gary Fan, and Ten Ka-Piu. Mr. Chen. Albert Chen. We have discussed this issue for a long time. It's generally agreed that this relocation to caverns should go on. So in principle, I agree with the upgrading of the facilities, but technically and financially speaking, there might be some stress arising from these projects. I'm concerned about the spike in construction costs in the tendering process. The manpower requirements are actually similar to building a railway. When we have a number of similar projects, construction projects, we have to fight for manpower, and this would need to arise in costs. After the relocation is done, it might be 4 or 5 years before the vacated land can be used. So I'm not sure if this can alleviate the problem of land supply. I'm not sure if the government has done any studies before. Can the project align with other projects like the Sha Tin Central Link, so that we can obtain the necessary labor? If the schedule of the project cannot be aligned with other projects, if we can do so, I'm sure the construction costs can be lowered, because the idle manpower from other projects can be used for this project. I hope that the administration can take this into account, so we would not need to fight for manpower, which results in spikes in costs. I agree with Mr. Albert Chan's comments. The funding application for site investigation, we won't be able to start until 2017. Apart from the Sha Tin Central Link, all the other projects would have been completed by then. So it will be a great opportunity for us to deploy those manpower in our projects. We will review the construction plan later on. I'm only worried about the costs. Fernando Chang. Thank you, Chairman. During the consultation stage, I know the residents we are talking about a one-way road. The residents have concern about odor and traffic. If anything happens in the project, it might affect the traffic conditions of the area. I know you have consulted these residents and you have arranged a visit to the Stanley sewage treatment plants. But today, I still hear concerns from residents that after the relocation, they might be affected by the odor, or even without odor, there might be adverse health effects. And they also have concerns about traffic, which remains unsolved. They said there isn't any concrete information or plan after those rounds of discussions. Our consultants have assessed the issues of odor and traffic. And for the odor issue, we will perform deodorization before discharging the air. And on traffic, the number of vehicles during construction have been determined. We have these figures, and we have also assessed traffic conditions in surrounding areas. And we have drawn up traffic diversion measures in order to divert vehicles away from Kung streets, and they will be diverted to Manshan Road. And in the morning rush hours, there won't be any construction vehicles. On odor management, the future facility will use negative blowing, which means the odor won't be an issue for nearby residents. We only have a very narrow road. If we have one traffic accident, there will be congestion. What will you do when you say diversion? Will you widen the road? At the junction of Kung Street, there would be a sub-road, a slip road. So you will avoid that street. Yes, it will be done during the construction phase. How about when the plan is finished? We will have about only 20 vehicles per day, which means about 2 vehicles per hour. The flow of traffic is similar as the current situation, and the impact on traffic is minimal. For the issue of odor and health impacts, would you have any concrete information to share with the residents? Yes, we will enhance. We can enhance communication with the residents.
Mr. Gary Fan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a number of questions. Now, the relocation involve a change in existing sewage drainage. Now, going to the race course or for residents near the race course and Tai Shui Hang, what is the impact? And if there's any impact, how could you deal with it? Blasting works, just now Mr. Cheng mentioned that blasting works may affect the residents in Fu'an Garden. You said you have been in touch with the residents groups and you've consulted them. What is the conclusion? Have you come up with an acceptable option with minimal nuisance that they accept? And the second question, the ancillary facilities. What ancillary facilities are they? Because residents have expressed concern mostly about the ventilation outlet. If the ancillary facilities are not the ventilation outlet, then is it where the ventilation shaft is? If not, where is it? Last question has been asked actually. For land released from the relocation, have you started preliminary planning? What is the plot ratio for the site in future? Can you provide some information, please? Thank you, Mr. Fan. On the diversion of the sewage system, we will have traffic management measures to make sure there is no impact on the local traffic. And during construction, we will set up liaison groups with residents. We'll give them information regularly, and we'll keep them posted of progress of the project, and when necessary we will consult them on certain issues. Blasting works, we've looked at that initially. The vibration standard now is 25 millimeters per second. Now we're going to use blasting for developing the caverns. That standard will be the vibration will be far lower than the standard. The green shaded areas, that's actually the emergency exit and also the vehicular ingress into the tunnel. And then 73H, there will be administrative buildings. The orange dot, the triangle there, that's the ventilation outlet. That's gas that's been treated in the cavern. It will be discharged there. It's quite far away, it's rather hidden. So that's the only outlet, right? Yes, the only one. On preliminary planning, in the feasibility study, we have considered preliminary planning for estimating the cost effectiveness. But as I explained before, for the detailed planning, we will only do it a few years before the completion of the relocation. Here, for this side, we're mostly considering residential development, commercial development like shops and hotels, and other recreational or community facilities like a seaside promenade, cycling tracks, and so on. Actually, you could make reference to the current Sha Tin area for private residential development, like what we have, Bristol Garden and so on. Public housing, Chong'on Estate and others would serve as reference. So the development will be similar, like the existing ones. Mr. Tan Ka-Piu. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have quite a number of questions. I'll ask all my questions quickly. Please give me short answers. First one, 2022, completion by phases. But here it says that it's just the investigation and the study stage. Let's say everything goes according to plan. When could these 28 hectares of land could be used for building? Which year, please? That's the first question. Second one. Now, there's a lot said that there's a shortage of specialized workers. So that's why the business sector wants to import workers. Here, you are just talking about 75 workers, 25 are professionals. Have you assessed that there are sufficient local workers with the skills? If not, could you spend time training workers? That's the second question. Third one, I'm very much attached to the Shingmun River. I've been rowing there for several years. But would the Shingmun River be closed during relocation? Can we still use the Shingmun River? Thank you. Answers, please. Government. First, about the types of workers required. As we explained earlier, cavern works similar to tunneling works. If all goes well, its works could only start at the earliest in 2017. By then, tunneling works like the few railway projects all would have been completed except for the Sha Tin Central Line. So during the period, we should be able to. So therefore, we should be able to form a team of workers for this project. The completion, Mr. Lai, please. Yes, Mr. Tang is right. This paper is about investigation and design. We could complete it by 2012, but we hope to start works in 2017. But when we are talking about cavern works and sewage facilities, that will take about 10 years. But in the interim, we'll see whether we could relocate the sewage treatment works by phases, so we could release the land as soon as possible. $600 million for investigation design. You're not actually talking about the actual works. So that means before 2011, you will come back to LASHCO for funding for the actual works, right? So is it the case that by around 2022, the land could be used? The land is available for use. When? If we could start the construction works in 2017, the construction period is about 10 years, so it will be about 2027 when the land could be made available. So then it will be formed land. But then building will take another 3-4 years. That means it will only be in 2030 that we see the first batch of buildings. My last question: will it affect the Shingmen River? Our relocation plan would not affect the water sports facilities on Shingmen River. Let's say in future there's need to build some sewage drains across Shingmen River. Now we have the pitless excavation method, and we could just sort of send across a pipe without affecting users of the river. Okay, first round, no more. For first round, let's go to the second round. Dr. Fernando Jiang, 3 minutes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After the relocation of the sewage treatment works, there's another project, reclamation, next to it. Now the Development Bureau is here. The CEDD is here because it's about works. Can you tell us whether there will be reclamation? Of course, there is a lot of opposition now. What's your consideration? Is it that you try to wait for the reclamation, then you could have a large site for luxury homes? What's your plan? For the Ma Liu Shui reclamation project, this is a separate project from the relocation of the Sha Tin sewage treatment works, but of course if the public accepts it, the two sites can be developed together. Now we've gone through two stages of public engagement. We've received a lot of opposition, some concrete opposition views, like the view, the water flow, traffic impact, and so on. We're now doing a technical study. We see how we could address all these concerns. And after we've completed the technical study, we plan to go back to the community and talk to the residents, and we'll see what the response is before we make a decision. So we have to go through the existing mechanism of consultation before we decide whether we'll proceed with the Ma Liu Shui reclamation project. So you mean at this stage you do not yet have plans to for the whole site from the reclamation and the relocation? No, it's true. No, we don't have plans at this stage. Well, I hope you bear the views in mind. It's not just about technical aspect of the reclamation, really. Next, Mr. Gary Fan. Can I just ask a short question? The site vacated from the relocation would be like the Trencano waterfront development. There will be stepped town planning, not like the scale of development in nearby residential areas, to make sure there's a certain protection of the view. Mr. Fan, that's the planning standard adopted by the planning department, stepped development. That is by the seafront, lower the height, and then the height goes up farther away. That's the standard we adopt now. I just gave you some examples so you know what sort of communities we are going to build there, just to give you some idea, that's all. Okay, that's the end of discussion for this item. Members, do you support the government going to the Public Works Subcommittee for funding for the various items in the paper? No views? Okay, let's move on to item 7 on the agenda. Planning, engineering and architectural study for topside development at Hong Kong Boundary Crossing Facilities Island of Hong Kong, Zhuhai, Macao Bridge. Can we invite the administration in, please? I would like to welcome the representatives from the administration. The attendance list is tabled, so I will not introduce each of them. Can we first invite the administration to give a brief introduction on the item? The administration is going to do a PowerPoint presentation. Please be very concise. Government representative, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will give you our initial ideas, and then I'll ask the CDD colleagues to present to you the scope of the funding application. Please continue. No, we're still loading the PowerPoint. The location of the artificial island, I'm sure you all know it very well. It's linked. It will be linked up with the western bank of the Pearl River Delta, the area, because and then it could also be linked to the western part of the New Territories, and through the western corridor, it could be linked to the eastern bank of the Pearl River. To the south, through the Lantau link, it could be linked up with the urban areas in Hong Kong and Kowloon. Now, I think the public agrees that we could have bridgehead economic development here at this boundary crossing point. There will be 5,000 hectares of the boundary crossing building. There will be shop space, some 300,000 square meters for retail space, entertainment and catering space, and even underground space could be made use of to provide more areas. Of course, where there are opportunities, there are constraints. I'd like to present the constraints to you. As we plan this development, of course, we cannot affect the commissioning date of the Hong Kong Macao Bridge, and the day-to-day operation of the bridge must not be affected either. And then we have to consider commercial development in the area. We hope there will be synergy, especially for the North Commercial District on Airport Island, because this is close to the airport, so there will be height restriction. Southwest of the BCF is about 30 meters MPD, and to the east about 60, also about 50 MPD. For the clearance facilities, they're at one end. Already there's not much more space vertically, not much more vertical room for development. And you see two colors here: the brown and the white. Green is the restricted. Brown is the restricted area. If we want topside development or underground development for local residents and travelers who have not yet gone through the boundary crossing, they must be segregated. Especially, we have to give it careful consideration in case there's a fire. So, for the brown areas, there would be this constraint, and because of that, we believe that for the white area, there would be development time frame earlier. And then there will be supporting facilities, traffic assessment, financial assessment. These are all issues we have to consider. Our aim is that after commissioning of the bridge, small plot could be made available for advanced works. Now I'll ask my CDD colleague to brief you on the scope of the project.
Chairman, for the project number 770CL, we hope to upgrade the project to Category A to perform a planning, engineering, and architectural study for topside development at the Hong Kong border crossing facilities island of Hong Kong Zhuhai, Macao Bridge, and the estimated cost is 61.9 million. The scope of study is to ascertain the possibility of developing the topside development at the boundary crossing facilities, and second, establish an overall design concepts, study the financial viability, and establish market position and operating strategy, and third, environmental impact assessment, and fourth, establishing the lands which should be developed first, and five, the relevant site investigation works. There is a building height restriction because of the airports, and we will establish the area of development for the topside development. We will also think about the auxiliary facilities, and there are a number of areas of interface with our existing facilities, and we will introduce temporary measures in order to minimize impacts to traffic, and we will implement our facilities by stage. And when the bridge is commenced, we hope the boundary crossing facility can operate smoothly. We will also look at the commercial area to the north of the airports. As the Secretary said, most of the artificial area of the artificial islands are restricted areas. We will look at the possibility of developing commercial areas, and we will look at immigration, excise, and the relevant arrangements. We will perform an environmental impact assessment as well as traffic impact assessment, and we will optimize the existing traffic and road network, and build links with other tourist attractions and facilities. We will also recommend the scale of the project, the positioning and operating strategy, and we would also look at the topside development as a mean to develop bridgehead economy, and we will identify the plots of land for development. We have consulted the District Council on the 24th of February this year, and they support the idea, and they recommend coordination with the government. And next step in May, we will apply to the PWFC to upgrade this project to Category A, and the funding application will be made to the FC in May. If all goes to plan, the project will be commenced in August rather. That's all for the presentation. Any questions from members? According to Rule 83 of the Rules of Procedure, if any member have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in the issue, he or she must disclose the nature of the relevant interests before he or she can speak. Questions from members? You have 4 minutes each, including the time for the administration to respond. Tan Ka Piu, Albert Chan, Frederick Fong, Michael Tian, Chen Kinpo, Chen Hengpan, Sid Ho. We have 8 members who want to ask questions. Wu Chi Wai. So we have 9 members. Tan Ka Piu. I'm not a member of this panel, but I'm a member of the Islands District Council. The idea of building this bridge was raised in 2009. This idea of introducing a commercial area in this artificial island is not a new idea. It wasn't a new idea proposed by C.Y. Leung. So why did we have to wait so long before we start this preliminary consultation? We are just at a very, very preliminary stage. So what happened between 2009 and 2014? Did the previous term administration not have this idea to develop this area? Did the previous term government not have any idea of developing this artificial island? Is this the case? So I really want to know. Or is it because of the interface with other facilities or buildings? I just want to know why it took so long. Price levels in Tongchong are relatively high, and it ranks 2nd or 3rd in the outlying islands. So I'm really worried about inflation before the facilities can even be launched. I think we've been talking about the idea of bridgehead economy for some time. I do think bridgehead economy is valuable, but we have to consider the scope. We are talking about an area of over 5,000 square meters. And today we feel the need to further expand this concept of bridgehead economy. So do you mean that the previous term administration did not consider all these factors? They knew, but they chose not to do anything. No, this is not what I meant. For the previous term government, after factoring in all these things, they considered the priority to be the completion of the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macao Bridge. And now we see the need to expand the development. In terms of the overall timeline, if all goes to plan, when will we see the first major commercial facility, like a so-called milk powder city? When will we see the first commercial facility? For the commercial hall, the area is over 5,000 square meters, and it will be launched after the bridge is commenced. In the non-restricted areas, the situation is relatively simple. Our goal right now is, after commencement of the bridge, we want to have some land space available in the non-restricted area. Can you give us a year of commencement? I cannot answer this question at the moment. We still need to do a lot of studies, and these factors would affect the timeline. After the studies, we can come up with a more concrete timeline. So my view is we need to speed things up. Mr. Albert Chan. if we don't have a milk powder city, it might become a diaper city. So this piece of valuable land will become a shopping paradise for FIT travelers. This is not what Hong Kong people want to see. A lot of Hong Kong people have to live in subdivided flats, and they cannot even get on MTR trains. So Hong Kong has changed. If we further develop development in this direction, this is against the will of Hong Kong people. I agree with the general studies on the use of space in the airport. So maybe we should consider it together with other proposals, with other plans. I've been involved in the design of the airport. The advisory council did some work on environmental quality assessment. I was involved. From day one, the choice of using Chek Lap Kok was a wrong decision. At the end, the British government in Hong Kong chose Chek Lap Kok. Some results from the EIA reports were actually incorrect, including water quality reports and the impacts on Chinese white dolphins. The next paper talks about artificial islands. Why don't we actually relocate the airport instead? That was also what Mr. Wu Ying-sheng proposed a number of years ago, and I agree with him. Right now, this location, a lot of planes pass by this area. I'm talking about eastward bound trains, and a lot of exhaust will be generated. So air quality assessment, soil assessment are very important. The level of noise generated is enormous, and it will really affect people who live or work in this area. So one of the reasons for relocating the Kai Tak Airport was that Kowloon City residents had to endure a lot of noise. If you construct another major shopping center in this area, those problems would come back. So before this study, I think the third runway is not necessary. If you look at Denver Airport or the Dallas Airport, they have 10 runways. I hope you can conduct an overall review, but not part by part. Otherwise, Hong Kong people will suffer. Do you need to respond? Yes, I hope you can give a simple answer. An integrated approach, we agree with an integrated review. For the Lantau Advisory Committee, we hope to maximize overall efficiency in terms of developing land in Lantau Island. Frederick Fung. My questions are related to both papers. On the study of artificial islands, right now we're looking at residential and commercial developments. Do we have other possibilities? If we are to have an artificial island, can it be used for not in my backyard facilities like cargo terminals. And the vacated areas in Sham Tseng and Kwai Chung or Qingyi can be used for other things. Would this be a more appropriate measure? When we talk about developing Lantau Island, we should only develop the north of Lantau, but not the south. On the land use of artificial islands, at the moment, we just want to assess the technical feasibility. We want to look at the scope, the total area. In terms of optimizing land use strategy, in the second phase of consultation, we did ask the public if we are to have an artificial island in the middle of the water, what do they want to do with it? We will talk about it in the PowerPoint presentation. And so far, they mentioned things like tourism facilities, residential facilities, recreational facilities, etc. And for the not in my backyard facilities, we won't rule out this possibility in our study, but we cannot give an answer today.
I want to make it clear. On the whole artificial islands, you put all the not my backyard facilities there, because anywhere else people don't welcome the NIMBY facilities. So it's best just to put it on an artificial island. Now you cannot tell us when the topside facilities might be completed for use on the artificial island. Is there a time frame or roadmap as to how much the whole project might cost? Some professionals estimate that it might take 20 years. That means Steve Weiland has to be the chief executive for 4 terms. So what do we do? Permanent Secretary, any timetable? Well, we don't have a specific timetable yet. An artificial island is to address long-term land needs. It's not to address the medium to short-term land needs. Now here on the study is about determining the size, the scope, and the scale of the project, and then moving on to the next phase, we'll look at land use, and the time frame. That's why today we're not able to provide a time frame. Now, is it possible that you bear in mind relocating all the NIMBY facilities there, and maybe it can be done? Well, as I said, we will not rule out the possibility. And actually, at this point, we still do not know whether there will be just 1, 2, or 3 artificial islands in the central waters. We could identify a suitable site for an artificial island totally for locating NIMBY facilities. We do not rule out the possibility at this stage. Dr. Fernando Zhang, well, let us focus on the artificial island where the boundary crossing facilities are. Now, this is an application on feasibility study. This so-called bridgehead economy. The Hong Kong Macao Bridge, together with the Hong Kong International Airport, are they both covered as part of the bridgehead economy? Or are we talking about entire Lantau Island in terms of the bridgehead economy? Because that makes a huge difference. If the whole of Lantau Island serves the bridgehead purpose, or even the whole western part of the new territories could serve as a bridgehead, then the coordination would be important. This artificial island is not really that huge, and there are a lot of constraints, as the Permanent Secretary explained just now. So what is the scale of development? I think we do have to look at other development coordination and support. Of course, it depends how big the bridgehead economy could be. Now you're going to spend some $60 million just on a study. And reading from the paper and your PowerPoint presentation, This is just to create synergy with the airport island and the bridge, but there's no mention of the points I made. So could that be a problem? Now we are talking about developing Lantau Island. Of course, there is a Lantau Development Advisory Committee now. I heard, though, a lot of concerns have been expressed. The Lantau Development Blueprint might undermine the local characters and the green economy and the green lifestyle there. So all these are related. You might do something here, but there's no coordination elsewhere, or you want to build an artificial island. Well, I hope it won't be built, actually. But do you take a microscopic approach in dealing with this project, or should you take a macroscopic approach? Should you not adjust the directions here? Bridgehead economy is a general term. We have to look more importantly at the economy of Hong Kong as a whole. We just believe that we could go a bit further and do a study given the current economic development. As mentioned, there will be a Lantau Development Advisory Committee, and as announced in the policy address, and then they will look at the overall development as a whole. And our study focuses on the artificial island, and the scope is definitive. There will be commercial development, shopping, retail space, hotel, and catering establishments. As for the new artificial island, it will be a new commercial district. All these have been spelled out, and these issues we discussed at the Lantau Development Advisory Committee. Thank you. Apart from the Lantau Development Advisory Committee, are there any channels for the public to be involved and give their views? Mr. Chairman, there are plenty of panels. Such a development project has a long process. We'll start with conception plans, feasibility studies, and detailed plant designs. At every stage, there will be the chance for the public to be engaged. Mr. Michael Tan? Mr. Chairman, I've said several times openly in the past few months we've benefited from the individual visit scheme in the past decade. How do we retain the economic benefits? Because on average, there's an increase of 20%. Last year, 27 million. If it's again 20% increase, next year that means some 30 million visitors. Just visitors under the individual visit schemes. We haven't counted other visitors. Even state leaders, Zhang Dejiang has said, he's urged us to do a study. We should look at our reception capacity. Many have a different view. They do not see the need to control the growth or adjust the growth. But what about new tourist attractions? We haven't got any. Still Ocean Park, Disneyland, and there's not been a new shopping mall in 10 years. And the Hong Kong Zhuhai Macao Bridge will soon be commissioned. We wouldn't know how many tourist coaches will come our way every day. Maybe it's more than 25% of growth in visitor numbers. So we have to enhance our reception capacity. Now, the majority of people come here to shop. Shopping brings about economic benefits to Hong Kong, and jobs are created. But when you have a shopping center, then you need hotels. It's best that people stay in a hotel nearby and they shop there. They go to Disneyland. There's no need for them to come into the urban districts. Everybody would be happy then. We're happy, they're happy. That's why I'm very much in support of this project. And I think it's a matter of urgency that we proceed with this project. I only have a quick question today. In Hong Kong, we have a serious shortage of mega shopping malls. What do I mean by mega shopping malls? Is where people could stay there. There will be hotels. They could spend a few days. So at least we need 2 million square feet or 200,000 square meters. And then hotel and other support facilities. So we need about 300,000 square meters in total of space. Is it possible for you to achieve this scale? I don't know whether you're going above ground or underground. Anyway, not everybody in future would go into the urban districts. They may just spend a few days here and then they go back to the mainland. But some, of course, would still want to go to the urban areas. There is currently just a Tung Chung line. The Tung Chung line and the Airport Express Railway share the same track. Then the track is reaching saturation. With northeast development, I do not see any extra capacity on the Tung Chung track that could cater to the increased number of visitors from Hong Kong to Macao Bridge. Well, you've used up your time. If you can't finish, maybe you wait for your second round. I have only 2 questions. 300,000 square meters, is that possible? Secondly, what about the railway service? First question, 300,000 square meters is possible. Our preliminary assessment is 300,000 square meters. We can do it. We haven't even counted underground space, and we haven't counted space within the restricted area. For railway service, we agree in the study there is need to consider fast transportation arrangement. But where does the rail come from? It can't just fall from the sky. But you haven't even got a study on the rail line and another rail line. Okay, please wait for the second round. Mr. Chen Kim Po, Mr. Ben Chen, both of them are not here. Mr. Ben Chen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we want to develop this site, it's mostly about people flow. Now, the report is expected to be ready only in September 2016. By then, the bridge might have been commissioned or near commissioning. There may be a discrepancy in the statistics the figures we have on traffic flow and people flow. Now, if mainland vehicles could come to Hong Kong, there may not be enough parking spaces. Now, if they could drive through or not, that would affect the findings of the report, actually. So can you explain how people will move about? Have you done any assessment? And if we want to develop the area, we can't just rely on vehicular traffic. There is a need for a railway service. That's why we've previously proposed extending the Airport Express line from the Asia Expo to the island. Would you consider this proposal? As I said, this is a preliminary study as to people's movement. It depends on how we make use of the space. That's why we're not able to answer the question today. On railway transportation or rail transportation, we will consider all possibilities and options in moving people and traffic. And if the rail option is feasible, we'll certainly consider it. On mainland vehicles coming into Hong Kong, would you let them through into the urban areas or not? If not, then they may have to park their cars on the island. How many parking spaces would you need? Or would you just make use of shuttle bus that they're not allowed to drive through into Hong Kong? Do you have such information? No, we don't have the information. The Transport and Housing Bureau has set up a task force with the mainland authorities on the cross-boundary vehicular traffic arrangement. We'll find a transportation arrangement acceptable to all 3 sides. We support topside or even underground development here, but if it's underground development, it will be costly. So you have to be very careful with the calculation to see if the benefits would outweigh the cost. In any case, we support such a study. Our financial assessment will consider the cost benefits and so on. And maybe we will also consider parking spaces for the convenience of transiting visitors. Next, Ms. Sit Ho. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there's a very strong view among the public about this accelerated integration. So instead of just technical and financial assessment, have you considered doing a social impact assessment? Now, this is a huge artificial island, 130 hectares, the equivalent of 3 West Kowloon cultural districts. And every day there will be about 9,200 and 20,400 vehicles every day, and about close to 70,000 people passing through here every day. Have you ever asked the people of Hong Kong? You know, here we're talking about a major bridge, Hong Kong Macao Bridge, and there could be so many people going into the urban area. What do people think about it? Have you asked them? You mustn't be so arrogant. Don't think that you just need to do technical and financial assessment and then you could sell it to the people. Look at Taiwan. Ma Ying-jeou was an elected president, and when he signed the trade pact, there was such repercussion. It sparked such a major incident. And here, this is just one chief executive who's got a few hundred votes, and he's come up with such earth-moving plan. Have you sought the views of Hong Kong? Would they accept it? Or as long as technically it could be built and as long as financially we have the resources, we don't need to care about the wish of the 7 million people. Well, yes, you're trying to sell it very hard by making use of the media, but I think everybody knows that very well. Many have come out to speak out in favor of this, but do they represent the public? If the public are not happy, how are you going to address the possible repercussions? Now, in paragraph 7, it says that you have started your preliminary studies and so on. But some members asked when you started the preliminary study and when did you come up with this idea of 130 hectares of island land. Bridgehead economy is now conceptualized as 330 hectares of land. Have you ever consulted the people of Hong Kong? Have you considered their opposition?
The artificial island will have 130 hectares, but most of the area cannot be used for development. So the floor area is more than 300,000 square meters. And in 2009, we heard voices of building a bridgehead economy from the community. In our feasibility studies or other studies, we will continue to listen to the public. I think you are just selectively listening to opinion. We are already in 2014 now, and there are still very strong voices and concerns whether Hong Kong can withstand such a large quantity of FI teachers. If the administration doesn't have an integral population policy, if you don't perform a community assessment, community impact assessment, I will not support either proposal. Members, this agenda should last until 6:20 p.m. according to the agenda. I have the right to extend the meeting till 6:45 p.m. For items 8 to 9 of the agenda, for item 9, we agreed to postpone it. We hope to cover item 8 as well, on the central waters and the artificial island development. Do we still want to discuss item 8, or do we want to focus our time on item 7? Without a population policy to tell us where the additional population is coming from, I will certainly oppose the plan of artificial island. We might have one artificial island or even 2 or 3. So what is going on if we only have 10 minutes or so? I don't think we should discuss the artificial islands. Let's focus on this bridgehead economy. I'm not a member of this panel, but I'm interested in item 8 on the agenda. If we have 15 minutes, I don't think it's even enough for me to speak. So maybe we should reserve another time to discuss this issue. You call him. Time is an issue, but for the artificial island, for Hong Kong Zhuhai Macao Bridge, if time permitted, I hope we can discuss both. I don't know how many more questions we have on item 7. 6. We have 6 more questions. 4 minutes each. That comes to 24 minutes. So it doesn't work. Chairman, we only have this amount of time now. I don't think we have a chance to discuss item 9, so let's not discuss it. So the question is whether or not we will discuss item 8. Silo said maybe 50 minutes won't be enough for her to give her comments. When we look at time, after those 6 questions, it will take us to 6:20 p.m. So in any case, it's impossible to enter discussions on the artificial islands or the reclamation. Let's postpone it to the next meeting or another special meeting. Any other comments? Last time I waited for a long time, so I think we need to have a special meeting. If we have a special meeting, we can discuss these. So please support this idea, and we can discuss all these items in a special meeting. Do you all agree? For item 8, the government should go back and do their homework. Mr. Zhuhai, on reclamation for artificial islands, I have a recommendation. According to the papers, around 70,000 tourists are estimated. According to this estimation, you came up with a proposed commercial development area of 5,000 square meters, and at that time it was considered appropriate to meet the demand. If you're talking about 300,000 square meters, it's a 10-fold increase. Do you expect way more tourists than 770,000 people? So if so, what are your considerations? If you expect such a large quantity of tourists on this artificial island, you said there will be ancillary facilities. Will there be any synergy with the north apron of the airport? If this is only an assumption, are we building the assumption? Are we basing it on this assumption that there will be a lot of traffic and people at the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macao Bridge to justify the 300,000 square meters of land development? I hope you can, the government can respond. As I said earlier, the topside development at the artificial island must achieve synergy with its counterpart in the airport, at the airport. For people coming in from the airport or via the bridge, they might need to travel to urban areas. But with the right developments, the visitors can stay at this area, this bridgehead economy, and their demands can be met. Under what parameter do you base your visitor estimations on? So without such standards, the project might turn into a white elephant. This is exactly what we need to establish through this feasibility study. And the area is 300,000 square meters. We have to assess our direction of development. Do you mean that in this development, there is no parameter in visitor number estimations? Do we not have any basic assumptions? No, we don't have such an assumption. If not, Vice Chairman, my first question was actually mentioned by Wu Shiwai. In the study, the flow of traffic and number of visitors, there is no baseline. We shouldn't have any baseline. The consultants should study the actual situation. When I look at the 10th paragraph of the paper, when I look at the costs, a lot of the money goes to viability studies. This project might impact Lantau Island as well as the whole Hong Kong, so it's just taken into account in the feasibility studies. As the Secretary said, this project involves railway. In the we have to study factors on traffic. As you know, transportation costs to this area are relatively high. So will you also consider local residents and not just tourists? Right now, locals don't have a way to reach this area easily and cheaply. So this cost of $60 million, would it include impact assessments economically on surrounding areas? What impacts does this bridgehead economy have on surrounding neighborhoods? Over the course of study, we hope that our consultants can make use of existing planning data in the study of economic scope. And on the engineering studies, both the artificial islands the traffic connections are, to this artificial islands is very important both to LegCo members and residents. This is a very important factor, and this will be covered in the studies. You have a strategy in terms of connection with Lantau Island. Will this be included? We will factor in basic planning needs, basic planning data. Of course, we cannot speculate on data we don't have. For future development of Lantau Island, we have to do it on another occasion. What's your communication with the Lantau Development Committee? We do have interactions. Their focus, our focus is on the development of this artificial area. Alice Mack. Chairman, I hope the Secretary can take care of this issue.
If we could only complete the study in 2016 and then decide how we're going to proceed with the commercial development on the artificial islands, then we are not tying in with the commissioning date of the bridge at all. I'm worried because then once the bridge is commissioned and visitors will become used to traveling to the urban areas to shop, they won't consider shopping here even by the time the mall is built. So if the development takes so long, it doesn't tie in with the commissioning of the bridge, then it's not going to serve the intended purpose. Now, originally, this development might bring in a lot of visitors and create a lot of jobs, but at the end, we might have missed out on the golden opportunity. So, of course, we support the development. Just from the point of view of job creation, we would like to see more jobs made available. But, Permanent Secretary, please see how you could compress the whole process so that the project could tie in better with the commissioning of the bridge. And we don't want this development to be again like the Tin Shui Wai development or and so on, or the that is monopolized by a major real estate developer. I hope that you will include this in the study on the artificial islands. See how you could allow small and medium enterprises and small retailers to go into the mall there. Don't let the consortium monopolize the mall. Otherwise, everybody would just be working for the consortia. And at the same time, it's good to offer more choices to visitors, because otherwise, why should they bother staying on the island to shop? It shouldn't be the same thing. It should be something different that will draw visitors there. There should be something with a special character. We don't want just any mall. We agree we should complete the study as soon as possible. As I said, that after the opening of the bridge, the first site will be made available for development as soon as possible. On the facilities to be provided on the island, I think that has to be decided to some extent by the market. The Permanent Secretary said that it's hoped that the first site will be made available after the bridge is open to traffic. But I hope you will consider it. We don't just want big plots, mega plots, because then only the big developers could bid for those sites. Would you consider making smaller the sites that will encourage more SMEs and participation? Mr. Chairman will consider that view. Thank you. Next, Mr. Yu Si-wing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In 2016, the Hong Kong-Macao Bridge will be open to traffic, so this study must be carried out as soon as possible. Ms. Alice Mack is right to point out that the report will only be ready in 2016. There are still 2 years. But then some of the facilities have to be ready soon on the artificial islands. Could you do it in 2 parts? For one part, the study will be completed earlier, and then you could come up with some concrete ideas of what is needed, and then so you do a short-term study, and then by 2016 you could have a long to medium-term study to time with the short-term study. Because otherwise, when the bridge is open to traffic, we don't have the facilities. Maybe we will not even do as well as Macao and Hongqing when compared. Now, the bridgehead economy, is to be linked up with Lantau Island. Have you done? Are you going to do a study too on traffic and transport? Of course, there will be linking up with railway services or transportation going to the urban area. Would this be included in the study? Outside Lantau Island, there's also the question of making proper, reasonable use of the facilities like the Sky Pier. What is the positioning of the Sky Pier when it's opened? What about traffic links between the airport and the mainland? Would you do an overall study so you won't need to duplicate or waste resources? On phased report findings, we will do that. We'll consider it. Now, the complexities in relation to the restricted areas and the non-restricted areas, but if possible, we will try to phase the study. Now, this study is mostly on the artificial islands, on the overall development of Lantau Island. Oh, that has to be left to other studies. Thank you. So, the Permanent Secretary is saying that this study is only on the artificial island. The planning of the artificial land. Now, the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macao Bridge related development. But the ramifications of the bridge development, it doesn't just involve the artificial islands, it involves the vicinity areas. Well, what about its connection to the north commercial area, to the north of the airport? As I said, the consultants will have to consider known plans in the area. What about traffic and transport? Yes, that's covered too. Any other questions, please? No? Then next, Mr. Yip Kok Him. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macao Bridge and the artificial island. This is about, it is essential in the course of integration and further exchanges with the mainland. Well, the construction of the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macao Bridge is in an advanced stage. So I think we're really late in studying the artificial island now. We should have started long ago. We should have done comprehensive planning for the artificial island long ago. But of course, late is better than never. Once the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macao Bridge is open to traffic, there would be substantial changes to the whole layout or positioning of Lantau Island. So how could we link up the island with Lantau Island and explore the full potential of the bridgehead economy? I think we have to consider it in the design. So my first question is this. There is now a Lantau Development Advisory Committee. How could you work closely with the committee and share information that's important? Second question. After the artificial island is built, what about the coordination between the airport and the commercial space? On the artificial islands and the question of integration, some members refer to that. Well, Hong Kong is an externally oriented economy. We rely heavily on tourism. Now, if we do not have any close cooperation with the mainland, there's no way we could develop the economy in Hong Kong. Well, just now it's mentioned that there are different views on integration. I believe it's just a handful of people in Hong Kong who keep promoting localism. But I think for the majority of Hong Kong people, they prefer to see more integration. So we have to keep an objective view on this. And I think the government should go ahead full steam in developing the economy in this direction. Can I get some answers, please, to my two questions? Mr. Chairman, the first question is, 2 weeks ago, the Lantau Development Advisory Committee held its first meeting. And this study, for this study, definitely there will be active interaction with the Lantau Development Advisory Committee. Second question, sorry, I didn't catch that. Commercial land in the airport and commercial land here, what is the relationship? Well, as I said, we have to consider coordination with the north commercial area of the airport, so we have to take that into account. Do you have anything more specific? No, unfortunately not at this point. I think it will have to be after the study before we have some initial ideas. Thank you. Next, Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. Mr. Chairman. Well, this is a strategy to turn that land into something valuable. You're building so many facilities, of course the site around it will become valuable. That's simple reasoning. This is the result I see. 130 hectares of land. We create the land out of nothing with money. Is it the best approach? Now you're assuming that there will be a third runway for the Hong Kong International Airport. And once the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macao Bridge is open to traffic, a lot of people will be moved here. And then you want to intercept the people flow at the island. That's more or less the idea, right? Let's assume this place is going to thrive. But where are the data? What is the rationale? I haven't got it. How did you come to such a projection? That's the first point. Second point, this 130 hectares of land have to be created. It's not there yet. So why do you want to create land instead of using existing land? Some members have asked reasonable questions. Lantau is so big, and you are doing so much construction here. What about the land nearby? Can it not be used? Now, I'm certainly against this project because you can't convince me. This has become just an investment project. Why did I say so? Because from proposing the idea to the completion of the project, in the process many would stand to make money from it. As to what happens after, well, that's another story. But that's my interpretation. So definitely I would not be in favor of this project. And I don't think the three of you could answer my questions. You said the study is just on the artificial island, so you can't answer my questions. Now, if Hong Kong is an independent jurisdiction and this 130 hectares land, is it really essential? Must we just make such land out of nothing, and it costs so much? And it will compete with nearby sites, also in Hong Kong. Why bother? Why do we want to do that? Have your superiors ever explained that to you? Why must we have this 130 hectares of an artificial island? Is it because while you're building a bridge, you could build the island cheaper? Is that the case? Mr. Chairman, the 130 hectares of land is exactly the landing point of the boundary crossing facilities for the Hong Kong Zhuhai Macao Bridge. We have already the 130 hectares of land. We're just trying to see how we could make the most of it. And I believe that's totally in line with the need of the community. I know, but why do we need such a huge site of 130 hectares of land? Did you think from the outset that the 130 hectares were essential? So you mean you designed it from the beginning to be 130 hectares? Now the original design is as the site is for the Hong Kong, as for the boundary crossing facilities, and the land use there has been planned. You could see it. Or rather, the study is going to look at the land use. Okay, fine. Then I don't see why. I don't get it. Why do you want to build commercial facilities there? Well, I've explained it, Mr. Chairman. We have the 130 hectares of land. We have the allocation of land use, and then we'll see how we could make the most of the topside development and underground development that would suit the needs of the community. That's all. Thank you. First round's finished. Is there a second round? 3 minutes each. Okay.
Zhuhai. The Secretary said the study will include many aspects, but under paragraph 10 for the consultant fees, the financial viability study will only cost 2 million, which is a very small percentage of the entire study. So it's obvious that the key component of the study is engineering study. If this is the case, how would you factor in economic development of surrounding areas in this study? For the Hong Kong Zhuhai Macao Bridge, our original estimation was for 70,000 tourists, and at that time we needed 5,000. We proposed 5,000 square meters. Right now, the proposed GFA is 300,000 square meters, so it hints that you are expecting extra traffic. Can you give an account of the trends of tourists from the west of Guangdong? If we are expanding this commercial business area in Hong Kong, Zhuhai, Macao Bridge, is there enough justification? The planning study takes reference from development parameters from surrounding buildings. We would consider the surrounding areas, including visitors from the mainland. Chairman, how will you reflect this point? When you look at these items, most of them are on environmental assessments. This is very important. How is this reflected in the breakdown? Can you state it more clearly under planning and architectural study? Can you make the descriptions clearer? I think time is up. That's all for this item of the agenda. Do members support the proposal the funding proposal, do members support presenting this proposal to the PwC SC for funding approval? In the remaining time, I propose arranging a special meeting to discuss item 8 and 9 on the agenda. If you agree, let's confirm. If you have no objections, the meeting would adjourn. Thank you.